approve the minutes. What?
I'll second that.
Okay.
I have couple of questions, obviously. Under number 4, where it says Martin question the road striping should be put out to bid. I think my comment was that we have historically just hired him to do that, right? We just talk about bids.
Can I just write that down?
Please.
Okay.
And I looked through here and I may be missing it, but I think at the last meeting we talked about putting the stove that's no longer usable in the kitchen out to bid.
We did.
And I didn't see that in here anywhere. Is it in there?
No, we just did it.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, it should be
I
under
missed
business.
it or not. That was all. It should be.
Yeah.
In the minutes. Because I was looking
And
at
that
it.
is, yep.
And I didn't remember when the bid was supposed to be.
Notices are all, notices are all up, but I forgot to put in the minutes.
Okay. Craig,
Yes, ma'am.
paragraph number 2,
Okay.
second line. I think you want the 2 at the end of that line out of there.
Yep.
Paragraph 6. Right after 4 town roads, which is like 5 lines down,
Yeah.
I'd like it in there that I also stated that the road foreman had spoken very positively about the work that they have done, they being the Southern Vermont Trail Riders, clearing trail entrances off of town roads. And under 9,
Yeah.
the select board, here's the addition, accepted Susanna Palmer's letter of resignation and reviewed the 1 letter of interest.
Actually, you accepted that.
We accepted it the previous.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah, and then you put it out to.
Okay, okay. In that case, I'm done. Anyone else?
So I'll make this as corrected.
Please.
Okay, nobody else has any corrections? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Okay, additions and deletions to the agenda. Winslow Drive, under new business.
Well, highway, yeah.
Oh,
Just
under highway.
A resident
Okay.
asked me to, or talk to me about it, just voice his concerns.
All by lanes. Any other additions?
I wanted to see if there's any good correspondence.
Well, is that correspondence
Glad I get that.
from
What's your?
Jared Rudisky?
Yeah.
That in the new business?
member of the public, I believe, is Carol.
That's the same from Jared? Okay.
I believe Carol's here, and will be on the highway too, Carol Millis.
Okay.
I don't know if that's an addition, well, it is an addition.
He doesn't want it to end up on a same level as your living room windows, I bet.
Oh,
Okay, warrants. We've all looked at warrants.
some questions on some of them.
Start with it, who wants to,
There were some questions,
here's your first question, I guess.
these are yours, I think.
Do you want to make a motion for discussion?
Sure. Does somebody want to make a motion about the warrants so we can discuss them?
Well, I'd make a motion, you can't say that I'm gonna make a motion to accept the warrants, because I won't move to accept them until the discussion happens, so I don't know.
Well, we can't discuss it until there's a motion to approve them.
Alright, to approve the warrant.
Okay, is there a second? Chad seconds. Now the discussion.
Who wants to? 410 window?
Well, somebody's gotta ask, whoever brought this up should speak to it and see what,
No, I saw there was a $248 charge that says 410 window. I didn't know what it was.
Pick stabilizer up, tree range slap, or tree slap, 410 window. Broke the little side window with 410.
Good.
Is that for the black, that's for the window itself?
That was for the window. I saw that there was some black from
Silicone.
Yep.
Yeah, you hear it out with silicone. Yeah, we replaced it.
Side window, tree branch.
does the insurance cover that kind of thing? No?
I don't
Probably
know.
not, probably don't
I
reach
don't
our
think it covers.
deductible of it.
I don't cover the windshield, but not windows. Remember, tried windows, well, tried windshields.
Might be worth looking at, is it?
I thought they didn't cover the windshield.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
they
it
did.
was 500,
Deductible.
deductible, and the windshield was less than that.
Yeah,
Because we did the windshield on the 550, and it got broke by a broke the
It's a different truck.
This is a track. Piece of equipment.
but I remember, since all of our car windows are pretty much automatically covered, even if it's way less than the deductible, but apparently the municipal policy doesn't.
Take it. That's stuck in my head. It seems like we paid for that. That's a Kim would know.
Which is,
Those T8 electrical problems. I thought we had that the last meeting, but
T8 electrical?
it's electrical and water separators.
water certificate,
You should have had that last meeting.
that should have been in the last meeting. Minutes.
But I keep the receipt, and then she gets a statement in the mail sometime. I don't know.
The date's, May 21st, so pretty likely that we had it last time.
521,
Well, why
who's the
don't we
vendor?
skip this one with that?
L&D.
L&D.
Or, actually, it's Patriot.
Patriot Freight Line.
Right,
Check with
Kim.
500.
one sec.
I gotta see.
Yeah.
We'll double that.
And what truck is that for?
T8.
Jeff, can you stick this on that statement? Bill, whatever it is?
Probably. I'm sure she sees it.
Okay, so that's that one.
This was a question to Kim, basically, about put in, just, it says, paid 2 weeks vacation. Do you know what that means? It's just a sticky thing.
Paid 2 weeks
It
because
says paid 2 weeks vacation, I just didn't know what that meant.
Paid before the end of the year, I assume.
Because the end of the year's here.
Right.
Probably.
Is that what that is?
So is that unused vacation time?
Yeah, that's what it would be. Did he use any vacation time?
Oh, yeah, but it's all Absolutely.
Well, you hopefully remember for the last month whether Buz's been on vacation for 2 weeks. Or,
No, he hasn't used it now.
okay.
I would say Bo was saying paid 2 weeks. Paid
Yeah.
2 weeks
Yeah, that's what
vacation.
it's.
Yeah, okay, so he
Makes
didn't
sense.
get paid for his vacation.
I was gonna ask Kim, I mean,
Yeah,
I-
we
she's
lose, we can only carry so much over,
Yeah.
after some policy.
in the overtime you put in, I take it for the training,
The what?
the training you went to in Bennington. You got, it's 6 hours or 5 hours?
Oh, Manchester, yes.
Or Manchester.
Yeah.
Back in March and again in April, again in May, we said no overtime. We've got to stop the overtime. So if somebody wants overtime, if somebody's coming up to a point that they need overtime, then
I take it off at the end of the week.
either take it off the other end of the week, or if it's something that's going to be critical, then you've got to get in touch with somebody.
I know you talked to Kurt about the mileage, maybe putting it through emergency services or something to that
Yeah,
effect.
we'll put that mileage through emergency services.
So does that come off here? I don't know how that works.
I'll talk to Kim and have it shifted out of that line.
I don't know if we're done using them, pretty much we're off Route 35, I just have financial.
Yeah.
So what are we doing about this?
Kurt, when do we use, Hunter North, is that?
Pardon me?
When we use Hunter North, is that because we don't have enough manpower of our own, or,
Right, and we can't run,
I didn't know
I
if it's some,
can't run a connecting road like that.
I didn't know if it's some new statute or something, I didn't know.
Well, it really is, it's, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
A connecting road like that, we have to do everything by the book.
And what's the book say about the flags that go on?
Don't
You
pay
gotta
them.
use-
Oh, that's the one we don't
You
want.
have to have 2 flaggers,
So,
3
city got it in
patrol,
there.
6 signs, a couple of stuff. And we don't have the personnel to do it, no. Class 2 connecting road, I've mentioned this before.
That's it.
Yeah, what's involved in training for flagging?
Just go to an 8-hour class.
I mean, it seems like there are not people running around town looking for work.
Well, then, you have to pay them probably to go to a class.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to pay for the class, and you gotta pay them when they do the flagging for us.
Yeah, and then you gotta make sure they're available when you need them, that's,
Show up. And you gotta make sure that they are,
doesn't sound that way.
I've only used flaggers on 2 situations, Wyndham Hill, as you guys know in the past, and on Route 35. I have to use flaggers.
We talked, I mean, we talked with Kurt
I
about it.
understand that, I totally understand that.
Those 2 connecting federal highway roads are really nice.
Yep. No, I understand that.
Send these down to Joe.
Did we say that about paying that $900 one? Is somebody gonna know?
Yeah, we haven't signed that. I think Kim will know why we haven't.
Is that still in there?
Yeah,
Still,
So that's gonna be.
it's
a
still
hold-
in there,
that's
but
gonna be a
it's
hold off.
not shown.
That's a separate warrant this time.
Yeah, but it's still gonna be held out.
Yeah.
And she'll look to see if that other one was paid last meeting.
Yeah, we put a note on it.
wait a minute, who was it? It wasn't Contact who was doing the transport, was it?
They hired the company.
That was the $900 one.
Yeah,
And then we had the $577 one that I think maybe was paid last meeting.
yeah, I think probably. Okay, so all in favor of approving the warrants, with the exception of the $900 to contact.
And verification of the double one.
Yep.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. We're still on the highway department. Jack, what did you have about Winslow Drive?
Well, was it not this Saturday, a week ago Saturday, resident thinks there's been some culvert work up there. And he put a couple sticks in the ground. He thinks there should be some guardrails or something put there.
A resident is complaining about
Rodney.
Winslow Drive.
What was it, Robbie?
Well,
No culvert, no culvert work has been up there.
oh, well, yeah.
Culvert has been cleaned.
Clean, all right, clean.
And actually the culvert was too short when it was put in years ago. And or the road has gotten wider over the years.
Yeah, I'm just,
I can put up 2 delineator posts on there, but I'm not gonna put guardrails. There's no need for guardrails at my need. But I can put up 2 delineator posts, one on each side of it.
What's this thing called?
There's a big hole at the end of the culvert.
a ditch, basically.
Okay, Kurt, explain to me again because,
At the end of the culvert.
Yeah.
The culvert's cleaned out, which you dig down at the end of the culvert, it leaves a big hole, so the water can get out of the culvert. And the culvert's probably too short, it's all probably right on the end of the road. And now the rest of the road is widened out, like they do. And you could probably drive off into that culvert if you're riding down the ditch line very easily.
okay, what I need explained is, you said something the other day about not putting up guardrails anymore. When I was talking to you about the cable and the guardrails by...
Right, cable guardrails are not used anymore. Only band rails.
Okay,
Right. But I could put up 2 guardrail, delineator posts, one on each end of the culvert, so you can see it as it comes down. I can't put guardrails on.
have you got the cable out?
No, I don't.
All right, and going back to this culvert, is the height of the drop off at edge of shoulder exceeding 5 feet?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Because the standard 876 says that generally where slopes are 1 and 3 or steeper, and the height of drop off at edge of shoulder exceeds 5 feet, the guardrail should be installed. So, the bridge is,
This isn't a bridge, it's just on a road.
Is that a good culvert? Is there a way to put an extension on that line? No, probably not. That's great expense. I don't know, I mean, I'm
It's
just
been
trying
we can do it.
to visualize it. I don't know how dangerous it is.
It's not dangerous, that's
Okay.
why.
All right.
I can do whatever you guys tell me to do. We'll do.
No, I mean, I didn't know what it looked like, that's why I was trying to figure in my own mind.
I'm just,
Well, surely the thing at the end of Simpson Brook Road is more than 5 feet drop.
What's that? The end of Simpson.
where Simpson Road crosses Route 35.
Yeah.
The fall line bridge,
So that one's 1 meter guardrail. And Winslow Drive, what is that? Is that a 3-rod or 2-rod road?
I don't know.
Okay. Because that's one of the things that the select board has to look at. What are the roads versus what are they supposed to be, so that we can determine, how much money we're going to be spending over the next 10 years to build these roads up to the standard that's been agreed upon.
There are no grants for culverts, for guardrails. I tried that for the past couple of years, where we assigned people and all that stuff. And there are no grants for guardrails.
It's coming out of our pocket. But the select board in 1999 said, this is the standard that we're going to follow. So we either have to follow the standard or we have to walk away from it. And if we walk away from it, then we're walking away from FEMA funding. Because if we don't have that, then FEMA isn't gonna pay as much.
I agree with you.
So it's basically out of your hands, it's in the hands of
And
the,
that was found in the AOT records when we were looking for that for FEMA.
for FEMA, right?
I had no idea, neither did anybody else.
And neither did anybody else. So it comes back to this group to determine what you want to do. So I guess we have to put that on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss
How do you like that worded?
road standards.
Road standard compliance.
What, I mean, while we're on that, we talked about, there's a culvert up by Farebox, it's a 3 foot plus or minus.
It's 30 inch.
30 inch.
Yeah, metal, old metal.
It's somewhat clogged, so we talked about fixing it. And, are we going to do, basically we need to have a hydraulic study.
Todd Mays called me back Friday. I have to call him tomorrow morning. He said he'd be in the area on Tuesday.
So you said you're gonna ask him.
I'm gonna bounce it
I mean,
off.
what is the select board feel? I mean, do you think we need a hydraulic study on every culvert?
Well,
I mean, I don't agree.
First of all, take that culvert. It never got bothered during our 100-year flood we just had. And it's a small culvert. It's not like a huge one we just did. It's something we're capable of doing without being a new culvert anytime that they're afraid of.
I mean, my feeling is if we're not getting any help from the state or the government, why should they
well,
dictate?
I mean, how much of an expense is that gonna be? I mean, we're, you know,
Well, it's not that big, but it would be. I mean,
it would be with the hydraulic
That's
studies on all our culverts and things.
The hydraulic study is not on all the culverts. It would be on all the culverts where the watershed is over a certain size, certain
which,
Right,
drainage.
and I think that when this standard was adopted, that, and I'd like to read it again at some point, give me a copy, I'm gonna read it right now.
Right.
It was when culverts were upgraded, replaced, damaged, whatever, I mean, it certainly didn't expect us to go out and,
it doesn't, I don't see anywhere on that it says we have to have a hydraulic study.
I don't think.
Question.
it does. I don't think that.
Q25
Was the state working on Q25 or Q100 at the time?
that says Q25.
Q25, but the state since then has upgraded that
Or 100 years.
it's not this standard, it's the Agency of Natural Resources. Because A&R came down and stopped you from, you couldn't replace the culvert on Plum Road to the same
Well, we're gonna talk about that.
size because of the drainage. And there are several culverts over on State Forest Road that because of the drainage, we couldn't replace to the same size without doing a hydraulic study.
And since '99, these standards have been amended or changed from FEMA, from the federal government, from whatever. We ought to check and see. I mean, we can certainly do amendments.
We did what FEMA said, or we did what AR said right now, we're still fighting with that because FEMA
Yeah.
said it was over.
Yeah.
And you can't get a permit in the brook without A&R to fix it.
Follow what they precisely said, and still.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what Todd has to say. He wants to come and give us a hydraulic, or he's not the one that does that anymore.
I can call that guy up on the phone and get it online.
The new road and bridge standards that the state is trying to push everybody to has any culvert greater than or equal to 36 inches in diameter will be designed according to the latest V-Trans hydraulics manual.
Well, we're under that anyways on that.
On that one, right.
So on that culvert, we would be under that.
Let's say we nail it, it would save us a lot of time.
Right. And any bridges, structures with spans greater than 6 feet will have waterway openings designed in accordance to. So we may want to, and we can get copies of all of these so that we may want to go to the bigger standard, the newer standard, because it looks like it's less ambiguous. However,
Okay, next meeting, we'll
I'll have to
figure it out, but
dive into that.
I assume Leslie Turk with nothing to do until then.
And it looks like Greg Morley is taking those standards in his worksheet.
In his worksheet.
Just, I'm kind of confused. He's got 284,000 for completed and uncompleted work, which we haven't done anything, and then the latest PW is 209,000.
Right.
I don't understand it, I guess, but I was hoping, I'll have to copy Kim.
You know, and I read, you email that to me?
Yeah,
I can't open that something.
you can.
I just keep getting Adobe Reader, and I've opened all his PWs before, and I can't open that.
Kim is the one that sent it to me. She should be able to.
Okay.
I'll send it to you again and see.
Try to download it, try to open it, try to view it, try to do everything.
So that was a question I was gonna have Kim to see if she knew the difference. But 80,000.
It's like, I don't know.
What's that?
I don't know.
What is it now?
This one he's got. Originally, when it said, I would say his original estimate was 284, and then his latest one was 209.
Well, I guess, the PW?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
I like reading.
That must be this one that we're looking at, the 209.
Kurt,
Yeah.
you have other things you,
I do. I do have one.
Go for it.
Okay. We had the pre-bid meeting last Thursday. Only 3 out of the 5 showed up of the contractors for paving. Basin Brothers, Lane Construction, Springfield Paving.
wait, we're talking about Route 35 now?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Last Thursday we had a paving meeting, pre-bid meeting for 35. Only 3 bidders showed up. And after talking with them there, they all agreed the next select board meeting they're going to get their bids in. It was kind of short notice for them. So we all agreed on that. They all have the same time for sending it next week. And
Excuse me, who was the third one?
Lane, Basin, Lane. Lane wanted to know if you could just destroy his last, and it will be sent in and shredded before anybody opens it or anything. I said, no problem. Because nobody had to open it yet.
Nobody was looking.
Right. Gravel crushing, Basin, Chavez, O'Shea's, and Fitzpatrick. They're the only ones I could get to come here. I called up another guy from, Northern Vermont, can't think of his name, I got his name, from Dummerston, from Putney, who's using them. And he said it's not worth it for that amount of gravel. So they will be getting prices, so we left on the pit. The grader is broke, as everybody knows. Nordtrack sent pictures of the transmission online to me. Jason Archambault lives in town, he's working on it right now, he's made an email me the pictures of the transmission. There are 2 broken gears, and 1 gear was welded to another gear. With full oil, I have no idea why it happened that way. So, that's not too good. We don't know. I didn't call him today. Joe and I were all day. So
How many hours on that?
a little over 6,000.
Is that high?
No. I mean, it's probably midway. Joe and I today were working on the sign inventory. And I would like to keep Joe, I would like to help Joe do this. It's a pain in the neck, to be honest with you. There's a lot of page flipping, finding notes, and it just goes a lot better with 2 of us. We did Route 35 today, Grafton Road, Athens Road. That took till noontime almost, Joe?
Yep.
And then we did Acton Hill, Simpson Brook, Deer Valley, you know. But the big roads with a lot of signs, it takes a ton of time to locate on the map and do everything in relation to house location and stuff like that. It's just a lot of looking at things. And we should be able to knock things off in like, what, 3 more days, Joe?
I would think so.
If I keep him on for that, and I could help him for that, I'll keep him on doing it, and I'd like to have him do it, but I think it would go a lot, double and just more than double. Last Thursday, I had the time, I had the paint, had everything. No show from Vermont Work Offenders. He had to go to court. So I painted the fountain up and down, it's ready for water and stuff. Friday, that was Thursday, Friday I checked it. That epoxy paint, you can still put your finger and get a fingerprint on it. So it does take a few days to dry. So that's good to go now. Wasn't my plan, but it's the only stretch of good weather I've had, and that's what happened. We got to adjust accordingly. Called Stevens and Associates, talked to Brett about that. I told him to get the go-ahead for the paperwork for the contract for you guys for East Hill, because we want to get that out of the way first. I don't know if they sent it in or not. No, they have. Okay. I said, do that first before you start doing it, so we have that in order.
Well, I think we have to back up a little bit on this hill, but go ahead and we'll get back to that.
And I'm done, go ahead.
You done? Okay, it seems to me that last year when we talked about East Hill, there were at least a couple people on the board who weren't so sure that we ought to even do it.
The East Hill thing?
Yeah,
I thought last meeting you told me to talk to Brett. I had it written
but
down.
we did.
Okay, I did what you told me to do.
I'm not questioning you.
Okay.
I'm questioning the board at this point to find out,
What?
because I frankly don't remember who they were. They may be people who are no longer on the board, or they may be some of us sitting here, but I think we need a clear decision about whether we want to proceed with that.
My recollection, if I could jump in, last fall there were so many things going on with the dam culvert, and East Hill was such a huge project. And facing winter and engineering studies and all of that, it wasn't going to happen last winter anyway, everybody knew that. But there was a sense by the board, and I think Steve brought it up a couple times, I can't recall, but I think it was Steve, just as it was questioning as to whether that road should maybe be discontinued. And the decision at that point was that Stevens should do a topographical study.
And he did.
And he did. And that was a part of their kind of overall contract, maybe contract for the whole engineering, but they did that portion of it anyway in pretty quick time in order to satisfy, I think, FEMA. But the select board made a decision to basically talk about East Hill Road seriously come spring. We had a pretty easy winter, so I mean it didn't really materialize, and other things intervened. So the question, the decision, the go-ahead, whatever, never really got formally stated, asked, and answered.
Well, let's ask, are there people here who feel like we should be seriously considering discontinuing that road?
The question has come up in my mind that it's feasible. I mean, one of our residents up there, it's their old, quoted it in the paper, wondering if it's worth opening back up. But then
Well,
again, if you
since then, I've gotten a couple of calls from them saying, what's going on with this?
yeah.
I'd be concerned about if we discontinued that road and
Then again, if
you
you have,
got a dead-end road for a long ways.
Yeah.
If something happens, you can't get down through there for whatever reason.
Well,
You have
that's-
bridges on both the other right.
yeah, and that's when you think about it, then you think, well, it is a way to get traffic around Townsend. God forbid we have a fire in town.
I mean, what are we talking for it's gonna actually cost the town? Say
Well, that's-
300,000 if that's the bill,
Yeah.
5% of it, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think you have to do it.
And even though it was a seasonal road, I mean, there's still another way around the center of town for some.
Especially with the fact that the Army Corps of Engineers could close that Townshend Dam Road.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, they can close that road, which means you can't get, without that road being open or Bellstrom Lane being open all the way across the top of the pit, you can't,
Bypass.
you don't have a bypass. If Route 30 is closed, if there's an accident down at the bridge,
That's where I keep coming back to, even, because first thing you want to say is, well, we don't need it. But then again, you come back to the thoughts, well,
God forbid if you ever had a
Probably
major fire
could.
anywhere from the corners,
Yeah.
from here down. I mean, in an accident on Harveyville Hill or something, we could be closed on tight.
that's where I keep coming back to, so.
Townsend Dam or the State Forest Road is not gonna handle the traffic both ways. And we know that already, we've dealt with that already in different times. And I think we really should fix fix that road.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we're gonna have an all-year road, considering it's not one of the steeper roads in town, to be honest with you. I don't even know why it's called a steep one.
Well, I guess the consensus is that we gotta move
Yeah,
forward.
well, hang on a minute, Joe has something to say.
I've been working on traffic control points and whatnot since I got elected and whatnot, and also with the fire department emergency management. And it is one of the key areas that we're gonna want to, I mean, it is one of the escape routes that we would probably want to keep open. You know, I can't say enough about, you know, what happened with Irene as far as learning where we can and can't go. I mean, if it means that we need to improve that road so that it's capable of handling another onslaught, now would be the time to do it. But again, I mean, I don't think going along the top of the pit, looking at that area is the answer.
Not through there, okay.
You know,
But Kurt just mentioned, you know, even, again, so you keep it open year round, which is,
right.
I think that's something you should do.
Especially with the traffic. I mean, if you look at the placards of the equipment going up down through here, it wouldn't take much to have an issue in the center of town here where we need to bypass here. And the state forest can't handle it. Again, it's just, it would give us that opportunity to be able to move traffic in a different direction. Even if it meant that this part of the road would be one way this way and state forest would be one way the opposite direction. Follow?
Chad, I don't think I've heard from you yet.
No, I think we can fix it, in my opinion.
Okay,
So,
shall we formalize it? Somebody have a motion about proceeding with,
I'll make a motion that we proceed with repair to East Hill.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Just a couple things on the highway stuff in the future. I think we need to talk about driveway culvert policy and beaver problem policy.
Driveway culvert policy, what's that?
Well, I guess we have one. I haven't looked at it, right?
It's very basic, all it is
But it doesn't sound like we're enforcing it.
it's in the application, that we have. And there's not, I've talked to, Vermont local roads, Vermont League City Council about this. And there's not a whole lot you can do, you know, without really spending a lot of money to fight something like that. But if we could do something, that'd be great.
Even if we could just use the policy of education, just so that everybody's aware that
We need
a
to-
driveway culvert is their responsibility. And
They're
if
supposed
they
to have
don't
a lane.
maintain it, it could wash out the road and cause us more grief.
It's causing the highway. You know, they're supposed to have, I don't know, if it's a 20-foot landing, a certain slope.
As a egress of 20 feet away from the road.
A lot of them straight to, and that's where the water goes. But
Okay, so,
just sometime in the future, we'll have to talk.
fine. Anything else with
That's all I got.
that? Carol?
Right. I have two.
You can come on up if you want.
I have two problems that I'm hoping you can help with. The first one is your road crew did a beautiful job putting in my culvert at the upper end of my property. I mean, it's actually, for culvert, it's really very pretty. The problem is that it's angled straight out and will flood my entire yard. I mean, there's no place for the water to go. And I was wondering if there's any way we could put an elbow on it and dig a trench to get it to the brook so that it's not flooding out my entire yard, my septic, leach field, everything else. Because you stand there, you look down, and it's down. And it's,
Well, we replaced the culvert that was there in the same spot.
Exactly. But there never was a problem before because it was always chunked up and it didn't run any water through it. Now I've got a problem.
We thought this would crop up. I'll go tomorrow or this week and talk to you about it.
Okay.
Look at it and see what we can do.
I'd love to see
Is
it.
that the one that was sealed on the Butler's side?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't sealed, it was just plugged right there.
Plug.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but that's why I survived Irene so well.
That's
We
dry
can
inside, nice and dry.
ditch it and avoid the elbow. The elbow will cause
It
problems.
just, the elbow would cause more problems than anything. Do it for
We
us.
can get a ditch there and then maybe.
Go back and be square one.
Okay.
But I knew it would, because it was there always, but now it just looks like, oh my God, there's a hole in the road, you know? draining my yard.
Well, it's now
And now
free
it sticks
for
in the yard, it looks big, 18 inches looks, you can put a lot of water through
Oh,
that.
yeah, I have no problem getting rid of it, all that yard is wrong. But yes, I will come see you. Thank you.
I will be here every day but tomorrow. And the other issue is I dug out some photographs of my house from the first one, the sepia tone one is from about the 1870s. The other one is about the 1920s. And both you can see somewhat that the level of the road was level with my house back then. And since then, Craig kindly brought out his transit yesterday and we've discovered it's 47.5 inches from the low part of my house to the road. And I have a terrible problem with water pouring off the road, and I know there's nothing I can do about that. I bought it that way, so I'm stuck with it, but please don't make it worse, because anyway, we pull off 4 inches. I heard you're putting down 4 inches of asphalt on top of the road. Is there any way we can take out 4 inches of grade and then put the 4 inches back in so it doesn't make it worse? Because it's just, as it is, I literally can stand in my living room and I'm looking at the eye level of people driving by in their cars. And if people walking, I'm looking at their knees. It's getting, it is, I didn't create this situation. The house has been there since 1836, but the road just keeps on getting built up, built up, built up. And that's why I brought these pictures so you can see.
She's not looking for free or needs it.
We are going to be 2 inches.
All right, well, still, we're going from 47.5
Yeah.
to 49.5, and the next time another 2, and you know, when I started I could mow my slope fairly well. Now I'm riding like a snowmobile, craning out there trying not to
Her
fall.
house is really, really close to there, as you know. And it's only 10 feet from the
And if I
road,
could
but
win
it's
the lottery-
essentially a ditch that runs right along the foundation.
If I could win the lottery, I would pick my house up and move it back 20 feet and make something better out of this, but I don't play the lottery stuff.
You're not gonna, if you move back, you'll be on a class 4 road.
Oh, what neat picture.
June Chamberlain gave them to me. She grew up there in the 20s and 30s. She was a nap. She was the second youngest of those youngest kids. I'm basing the estimate of that 1870s based on the dress style, but back then maybe they weren't up to fashion that you've seen in the book, so it might have been 1880s, maybe 90s, but I'm just guessing. It was a long time ago.
How much does a
4 inches of road need to be taken
Whole
off.
point of it?
yeah?
Cost.
Thanks. I mean, I think basically the town's gonna have to eventually dig into the top, you know, and do a small, maybe, or bow mag it and grade it, you know, or you can excavate some of these bad stuff. I don't know what.
Well,
No, it's not
being a
horrible.
35
So we
resident,
have to research the quality
35
of
is
it.
No, you wouldn't. There's not much built on top of it. You take 2 inches.
the one that hell.
I don't know. It's not really.
Actually, if you look at the ditch where they did put that hole in, you dug it out, you can see profile after profile of road grade. It's pretty easy.
We've talked about it for years and years.
All the way down to there.
The base, those road bases weren't built for today's traffic. They just,
Well, we'll get, you can see what.
You know, it's one of those things we can put in the budget or something and see if the town's willing to spend the extra money on certain, I mean, eventually you're gonna have to do something.
If you look from Mike Bill's cabin up the road toward Jeffers' house, you can see that the road gradually goes up and it levels off at the bridge, Simpson Brook at my place, and then it goes steep uphill to Jeffers. It's then built up to the bridge where it levels off, basically. When they cut that culvert into Butler's there, you could just see successive layers of roadway and build up in it.
If I
Pretty
remember
considerable.
correctly, back in, I want to say the early 90s, that corner had been dug out.
That was down by Bill's.
Down by Bill's, it had been dug out, and they redid that corner, but not up to your
No,
house.
no, it didn't go up that far. It stopped right around, pretty much probably
because of the water problem.
is that what that was?
Every time it rained, that, right from that corner all the way up to the Williams is it. All just puddled up to water, foot deep in there. That's why they dug that out, right, Joe? Put that crust in there.
The one around it.
No.
So it is something that, you know, the town has done in the past. We just got, as we work on the budget for the next 10 years,
Gotta have a 10-year plan, at least.
we've got to have a 10-year plan for these roads.
And when is the paving going this summer? The bids are flowing?
It's in July.
Yes.
Sorry.
It doesn't sound like a 10-year plan is gonna help Carol's immediate problem.
No. No, it doesn't. Well, at least I put it out there. Thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you about the
Yeah.
culvert permits overflow. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anything else on highways?
Are we gonna talk about your bid documents at some point, or?
Oh,
Yes.
Is it,
It's down under fire.
okay.
But we should probably talk about them while Kurt's here.
mowing, did you get the mowing thing done, Chris?
No, I talked to David, he said we were gonna talk about it tonight, but I did change I did get your, I guess you returned it. I got it. I changed the dates. I asked David, when do you want the deadline for it? There are not that many people out there gonna do it. When do you want the deadline for it, and when do you want to put it in the paper? And he told me to hold off on it until the board could discuss it, so I assume if it's approved, it'll run pretty quick.
If you want to discuss it, we can discuss it. It's not a problem. So we thought this should.
And I didn't even bring them.
And you didn't even bring them, well, you could look at my copy.
Yeah, I didn't make a lot of copies.
So basically what I've done is I started work on a template for the fire pond, the village fire pond. And it consists of an invitation to bid, which for the fire pond is 2 pages. Outlining the problem, what's going to be expected, the documents that we're sending, but then also the documents, you know, the itemized bid, whether we're looking for an itemized bid or whether we're looking for a unit price bid, when the pre-bid conference would be, when the bids would be due back. So that would be the first. Then we have a 3-page instruction to bidders that outlines the insurance requirements, the bonding requirements, whether we're expecting bid bond or would allow a certified check. And then under the performance and payment bond, whether we want a performance and payment bond or we want a line of credit. Outlining in a little bit more detail the liquidated damages. The fact that we're tax exempt, so they can use us as tax exempt status, the pricing format specifying that we want it written out in letters as well as in numbers, so that there's no ambiguity, and then any additional information. The fact that if there's alternatives to the process, that they should be included. The board needs to determine whether they want to give preference to disadvantaged businesses or to businesses that are local. Asking that certification is required, that the site's been reviewed, that all the documentation has been reviewed, that they're required to have the form signed by the owner or authorized agent of the company, that all the bids are sealed, that if we make a change to the bid, much like we did at the dam culvert, that we're going to send out an addendum, and that the addendum has to be noted on all the bid forms. And then it specifies how we're going to, the basis upon which we're going to award the bid, subcontractors, and when the bid will be open. So that's on the instruction to the bidders. And that for the Townshend Village Fire Pond is 3 pages. I've sent them a 1-page addendum, sample addendum, a 5-page contract. It's really the first 2 pages of the contract, the next 3 pages are definitions, and these are right off of the standard state provisions. A sample copy of the notice to proceed. I do not have a sample copy of the award with the notice to proceed. Should suffice. And then there's a 6-page bid document that has most of it's legal mumbo jumbo, but it's got who the bid recipient is, who their representatives are, any further representations as in that they're familiar with the site, that they've studied all the bidding documents, that they've obtained any of the other supplemental investigations or plan documents. The basis of the bid, what it's bidded, what it's specified on. So, for example, the Townshend Fire Dam, we have 6 different sections and then a total, so that for each section we can see how much they're estimating it out to be. The time of completion, just like we had specified for the Townshend Dam culvert, so that we would know when everybody would agree when it's going to be substantially completed, and then their attachments. And finally, there's 3 pages for this one on whether the bidder is an individual, a partnership, a corporation, a joint venture. And if they're a joint venture, then there's additional forms that they can photocopy so that each member of the joint venture signs it. And then, of course, we have for the village fire pond, we have the permit for the village fire pond, the grant that we filled out for the village fire pond, and then the cost plan sheet. And that would make up the bid package. So there's a lot of paper there, but it's essentially what we used for the Townshend Dam culvert. And so then that way it spells out anything. I went through the bids that Brud had used for the sidewalks, the bids that we used for the dam culvert, and did some work that I found online. So it pulls everything together, and it'll give us an a la carte menu that we can pick and choose from. Not all of them have to be this extensive, but we need to make sure this will make sure that the town is essentially protected moving forward. Now, it means that we're also moving out of the realm of a handshake, but legally it's spelling out what we're expecting.
It also means we're moving out of the realm of most local contractors.
In my opinion, I think is a monetary value. I mean, why, if it's a $5,000 contract, why go through all this? This is my opinion.
And that's what I'm looking for.
I definitely agree
from
on
the
these
board.
paving at $130,000. We need to have something.
Yeah,
to
that
this
we need,
extent,
but, it's,
and I don't know what.
I mean, even up to,
The rule of thumb has been over 15. You have to put it out to bid. Under 15, it's at board discretion. And a lot of times under 15 is bid. Oh, no, yeah, but it's at board discretion. Sometimes you do only use one vendor.
I think it's a valuable document if we use it,
like,
bits and pieces of what we need, and because I agree.
like East Hill,
A lot of
we
people,
need that.
if you're gonna have them redo the gazebo, I don't know, some, like you're saying, small job, $5,000, $6,000, local guys gonna look at this and say, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
And you're gonna wind up getting into the bigger company, it's gonna cost you a little money anyhow.
And
But
even
it's
if
a-
it doesn't, I mean, we've said over and over again that we would like to
Have a boilerplate.
support local contractors whenever possible.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think the whole thing is a valuable piece.
Oh, I do.
Having said that, is each time we put something out to bid, I think we can use parts and pieces of it that are gonna fit what we feel that our needs are, not the whole thing. I mean, when you get into a lot of money, I can understand the whole
Yeah.
thing, but, you know,
Well,
if you go-
and that's why I brought this to the board, so that
What is the estimate on, like, the fire pond? You have,
the estimate on the fire pond,
no,
it's gonna be
What was
close
the grant estimate? You had to put an estimate on the grant.
to, the grant estimate's gonna be,
18,000?
no, it's gonna be around $10,000.
That's it? That's what I was looking at for.
I mean,
ceiling on the whole
Really, about the
subject
only
there.
thing that I did for the estimate for there's, about $2,000 worth of excavation, and the majority of the rest of this is, $3,500 for, the Schedule A pipe for the dry hydrant. But since then, the permit that came back, there's some scouring that needs to be completed at the outlet of the dam from the fire pond, and they want all the trees removed. So, you know, that wasn't part of the bid.
Right.
And they want the inlet to the fire pond cleaned out.
When they say all the trees removed, they're not talking about that big tree down
That big tree, I'm hearing through good channels that the owner of the land wants that big weeping willow removed. And the fire chief supports it because it's that weeping willow that's dropping leaves in the fire pond and filling it up.
Just leave the trees down. Don't have very many other trees in town, in the village.
In the village.
Well, I just want things to get really soon, you're almost done with me. If you guys are considering, you know, kind of a ceiling on this, is where we should start and stop with this. So on these big projects, I realize we need to do this. You know, a $10,000 project isn't a huge project, to be honest with you. $10,000 can go quick in 2 days. And for, you know, say I hired Dale Clark, a great operator, good equipment, gets it done in and out, you know, works fast, or even Mitchell comes and does it, Mitchell Putnam. Those two guys aren't really gonna wanna go through 13 pages of paperwork when they can go do something somewhere else. And then we have to go outside of our area for bigger people because they have someone who does this.
well, that's where the rates are.
Exactly.
That's why I said the document is good, it gives us all the pinpoints that we need, but I think you take it on
I mean, we can
case by case
basically
basis.
bounce it off you guys on each situation, but and to really think about 10,000. I mean, that's
I mean, if you're never, I mean, we can hold payment, you know, hold 10% or 20% of the contract
Yeah,
until we're satisfied.
it's easy enough to do a small worksheet.
But on the bigger projects, I can see.
Oh, yeah,
That's
for
fine.
sure.
It's-
Kurt, what would you see as a reasonable cutoff?
Like, 10 would be pushing it. You know what I mean? That's the bottom end there.
Well, didn't we have 15 before, it was the board's discretion?
15 is a general rule of thumb.
15,000.
Right, and that's not counting inflation through the years, but
Yeah.
15 is a general rule. If
So
it's
now
over
we gotta be
15,
looking at, anything more than 20,000 or 22,000 or something like that, I would think.
But I know you're saying $10,000 for this project. I mean, that's a tangible amount of paperwork for.
I mean, I really think it's a case-by-case basis.
What's
I
the
mean,
mold?
there are some things that are common enough that you want to put out to bid for less money.
What's the mowing been in the past?
I don't know,
6,500 last year.
If we rent the machine, it's around 8. You know, we do a lot more tasks and stuff. But,
Yeah, but if we rent machines, then we're paying the salary for somebody to be on the machine.
right, but we're also getting a lot more mowing for it. That's why I'd like to do mowing, rent the machine, and then have a couple years off and have somebody else do it. Remember, because we get all the hardwoods, the standing and clear all my system grass.
So do we think 20 is a reasonable?
Again, I don't know how you can put a stark figure on it, because
Because
I
it
think
can
that has to be
still
a case-by-case thing. If we look at something and Kurt says, well, it's gonna cost you probably 22, 23,000, we go, oh no, we said we gotta do this. Well,
You're
I
right.
don't want that
Let's
to
do
be in the way. I think, again, what I'd say, these are
We go ahead.
valuable documents. I think that we can use them and tweak them wherever and whenever we put things out to bid. I think we
Yes.
want to be cautious about pinning ourselves into a,
I wouldn't even say
Figure.
wherever we put things
Yeah.
out to bid, because we might very well want to, you know, ask several people to bid on a $15,000 project.
that's what I'm saying, we can use that
Still, well,
parts and pieces. I'm not saying
Yeah.
use the whole.
And
Yeah.
also what we're doing, we can have something that we have never done before, and it's totally outside of any of our knowledge, and something new. Do you know what I mean? Then we might want to have this on something new that we know nothing about.
Yes.
You know?
The problem historically, ever since I've been sitting in on the board, or sitting and working with the board, there has not been a format from which to work. And I think that if you have this, you're not going to adopt it. It's something that you have on file.
Tool that
And
we
as
can
the
use
case
for-
comes up, you look at it. I think you can develop a short form as well for those items that, there may be a furnace job for $4,000. You want to put that out to bid.
Boiler.
Because
Boiler.
excuse me, boiler. And you may want to, but that doesn't, it's not going to necessitate anything more than a 2-page form or a 1-page form.
I went through that with a bank, and finally I just told them, forget it. I've done $80,000 jobs, I'm spitting a handshake, and never had an
You got a
issue.
boiler or a furnace?
One boiler.
But it was supposed to be.
These are really slim. I got the rest of that, it's all electronic.
oh, okay.
All right.
I think
So we're gonna talk about fire pond later.
We're gonna talk about fire ponds later.
Okay.
Okay, do we need Kurt to talk about the fire?
Oh, that's right. This letter, before I go, from,
Oh, you're not
West River
done
Bank.
yet. Sorry. Go ahead.
The interviewing letter from West River Family Dental. West River Family Dental.
Yeah, but he wants
Right.
one of the parking spaces abolished. What's people's feeling about that?
What was he talking
Well,
So
if you
you
look,
all right beside that.
yeah, there's,
Yeah, it's
Oh,
right
right before.
Right on 35 here.
about? So that's in front of
they're pretty
Picket
tight
fence.
if we're coming out of that driveway,
Is it
right?
What's big out?
the picket
It
fence.
may have, I think so.
Yeah, it is pretty tight, they are pretty close.
It helped though, people got inside the lines.
Yeah, but they don't.
They don't, so it is hard there.
It is blind going out of there sometimes.
And he's just asking for that one space delineated?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, he must feel pretty strong about it, because that's gonna affect his.
Yeah, it's his
It's
business.
parking.
Well, not just his business, but the safety part of it too. I mean,
Yeah.
it is, we all know which one he's talking about, right? Just
Yes,
the side
yeah.
of his driveway. And it is pretty tight.
It's off a little bit of a curve.
And we, now that school's over, we should start figuring out some way to get information or something to the school for next year to keep kids from parking on 35. Because that's probably what these vehicles are from. They park from the school all the way up through, and they even
I
park
don't
over
think it's kids, I
front.
think it's faculty, but
It
we
probably
fought that,
is.
we fought that for many, many
We
years.
have, I remember being on there before arguing over it, but we should at least send them a letter,
Yeah.
please, that's business.
Which is another
Leave the
issue.
business alone, but,
Well, I think probably closer to the beginning of next school year.
we'll
They
just
make amendments to their handbook during the summer.
so we're all, how do we?
I would make a motion that we make the one parking slot by West River Family Dental a no parking area. I'm wondering if we just painted stripes in there, if that would be sufficient to write no parking in the road or
Do
something.
we want to do that, or do we want to do a no parking during business hours?
I think I don't know that it's necessarily just business hours. If you look at that space, it is really tight. And I hadn't thought before about a van, but if you park a van or a truck there, you really can't see coming out of there. And I don't know if it's necessarily accommodating just his business. I think a lot of people use that parking area that are not just in his business too.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
Oh, sure.
Hospital Foundation is there.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
your
and there are
opinion
other
too?
things right along there.
And not everybody drives a tall pickup truck or, the shorter the car, the worse it is for you.
Yeah, it is a dangerous situation.
Could we
And just
get,
for the minutes, you're reflecting the parking spot south of the driveway.
Yes.
West? No, south is fine.
That's fine.
The one that was requested.
Yes.
Craig,
Ma'am?
could we get a telephone pole,
Put in?
well, moved
Well,
into that spot?
Are we gonna plow it?
Probably not, any quicker than you can get them to respond to taking out the two that are like presently doing blocking spots.
Well, that's what I was thinking that.
we have enough
There won't be
telephone
that.
poles there already in the parking.
No, I wasn't thinking about adding one. I want one moved.
No, when they're coming up to do the ones on Route 30, they should move them to the other side of the road by Heinz Home where there is no parking anyway, supposedly. That's where the pole should be.
You're gonna have to talk to everybody.
Okay, so we
It will probably necessitate a no parking sign
So we can just
in addition to striping on the road.
Bill Joyce, and he can paint some stripes in that and eliminate that
Can
part.
we call Bill?
Yeah.
Do you have a motion?
Well, how
Have a
about
motion,
if
need a
we
second?
vote before we
You need a second.
test?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Be a pain to have them out there painting when we vote no.
I do think that it would be appropriate for us to drop Jared, I can't pronounce his last name. Radisky.
I was just
Don't
gonna-
thank him for his concern, and that'll be taken care of next page. Just so that he gets a response to his letter.
Well, that was no move.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
Roadside mowing we've got on here. I know we weren't, there were all kinds of problems last year, most of which were completely beyond the control of the guy who we contracted with. Have we ever tried somebody like Renaud?
Oh,
I don't think they will.
Well, they do landscaping, and both last year and this year in the spring, they were advertising for mowers.
Is it Turner and Renault?
Yeah.
roadside ones?
I have no idea what kind of mowing, I just know that they,
well, we put the
Or I
invitation
don't.
to bid in the paper, and don't we?
We do.
Ryan,
If we get more mowing done when we rent a mower, but we don't want to pay OT or what have you to run the mower, why aren't we putting that out at our day rate or our hourly rate? That, I mean, just like any of the other tasks in town that we might not want to be paying OT to have done by other employees, why are we not running part-time or day labor hours for those kinds of tasks?
I'm not sure that in fact, I'm pretty sure that our insurance would not cover a day laborer, rolling a mower into a ditch,
We usually
a rented mower.
have the day laborers running the equipment, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Joe ran it one summer. It's a handful, isn't it, Joe?
It is.
You know, it's probably a 45,000 pound piece of equipment with a 21-foot reach on it with 3 spinning blades that weigh 100 pounds a piece, 80 pounds a piece. So, I don't know, having a novice run that piece of equipment is,
Yeah, not a good idea.
you know, it's like running a great.
As long as there's a reason for it, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not like there's no.
We're not doing that this year anyways, right?
It's
We're
a
not
workshop
doing that.
on the dirt
You
roads.
want to put it out to bid
And
this
ditches.
year, right?
And you got rocks.
I think
and
so.
all kinds of stuff.
Is that it, Kurt? You wanna put it out to bid this year?
Yeah, every 2 years and do it for 2 years and then the following year rent them over. And then these guys have two to three passes and they usually don't get the woody stuff, the woody materials, you know, and the schematics. That's what it's about. And I do, or whoever's running, you know, we do. We take our time to get it, which is what really bothers the branches and the leaves, not the grass and the weeds. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're gonna be putting that out soon?
Yes, I'd like to.
I've got the copy. Do you want me to put it out? And when do you want it out? What do you need for response? 2 weeks?
The time?
I mean, can you look at bids on the 2nd, or does it need to wait until the 16th?
Well, they're going to be receiving bids from the asphalt people on the second.
Oh, no, I'm saying if I put this in the paper, 18th, 19th, if I get it in the paper by the end of this week, for 3 days over the weekend, it doesn't leave a lot of time before July 2nd.
I don't give you much time to.
No. Okay, so you want it for July 16th? Okay.
Yeah, I like them mowing down right, you know, to be honest with you, end of August, because then it's mowed for the kids on the buses and everything. We mow early and it's all right, right?
What about a contractor? What do we do when we have a contractor?
I can get you the copy of the contract we had with Bruce Orchid for last year.
I mean, is this
It
something?
wasn't much. I can show you what that was.
Never been much. And Bruce had his illness last year and then Irene hit.
Right.
I guess, do
Wait,
we need to have a contract in order before we put this out there? Or if we even do it?
Well, what, you guys can meet with Kurt and road commissioners and have that.
Get something,
Well, I guess what I'm asking, are we going
We're
just a
not
small scale?
yeah,
Same as every year?
very small.
single piece of paper.
Short form.
Yep.
Short form.
And where we're at, okay. Grab questions underneath.
Grab a question. Next.
You've been talking with some people, right? You
Yes.
said,
We have a proposal from Basin, right?
Came in tonight.
Was there,
Yeah,
was
what-
there a time frame that you had for the proposal?
No, there's no time frame.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, there's a time frame, but not any.
And the
I
board
can't
shouldn't
do
sign the
anything.
bids are gonna be sealed or just open-ended.
And I can't do anything until, you know, the budget comes in and it works on the bid.
No, but we've got a proposal from Basin Brothers already.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to wait for proposals from others?
I would wait for proposals for others.
Okay, you had put that out to bid already, or what?
I met with the guys on the pit, just to give me a price per yard, you know what I mean?
Proposals.
Loader included, just like we've done in the past.
8,500 yards? Is what he's got written down.
Yep.
And one person told you it was too small?
Well, I went over this with Kim on our budget, what we had for money. And told the guys what we had for money, and that's good. Because a lot of guys won't do it for $10,000, $12,000 on work, they're mobilizing their equipment.
Yep.
So,
We ran into that before.
So I guess when the time comes, we're gonna have to get something that everybody's bidding on, make sure everybody's on the same page, or have a meeting or something.
Yeah, I think you guys can do that.
Yeah.
if you wanna go through, it's different than what I've done in the past. You know what I mean? I'm just dealing with the same guys that I've done in the past, so it'll be new for them.
You and Kim have looked at
Our money's for it?
how much you've got.
Yes.
Is that gonna be enough gravel?
For this coming ensuing year?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
We don't have any right now. Really,
No,
50 yards.
Oh, okay.
Nothing that much.
it's a small part.
We took a load out today.
Get it out of the brook. They still let you in the brook?
But
Yeah, that brook
harmony.
that's on East Hill, they're letting you in that brook, all you want.
if there's a, you guys come down, drop that stuff off, and try to get it together on what I need.
Are we gonna talk about fuel metering tonight?
We can, or we can put it off. I've got,
Wasn't on the,
yeah, this garage, town garage fuel metering.
yeah.
I've got, a $9,307.86 quote from Beardsley to replace the pump, all the tank pump accessories,
Yeah.
1-inch breakaway hose.
See, this is a perfect example of the bids right there. Because we don't really, you don't know nothing about that stuff. At least I don't. So that's a perfect example of
And there's
using
a
that, some of that form and stuff.
proposal from SCI Distribution out of Clearwater, Florida for, I think, essentially the same thing. I think they're missing some of the parts.
They're out of Florida.
They're out of Florida,
Where do they,
and
do they
it's
have a,
$65.50.
where do you get service and stuff from?
Well, and that was the other issue that I was bringing up.
Well, you could run me down.
Parts support.
Well, and how much was
Okay,
there?
kill that truck.
This one is 9 something.
This one is 9 something. I don't think all the parts that we would be looking for are in this proposal from SCI,
Which is 6.
which is $65.50.
Yeah. Are they the only two places where?
They're the only 2 places that have been willing to talk to me. Now Beardsley have the Keytrol Bank. And these are the people out of Florida, the ones that have the electronic monitoring. Beardsley does have an electronic monitoring fuel management system, and it's essentially another $6,000.
Yeah.
But if you remember, these individuals, the guys out of Florida, their electronic monitoring system was another $5,000. So they're on par. But if you want to put this off until,
Well, my question would be, is that going to accomplish what we need to accomplish?
both of them will accomplish what we need to accomplish, but it's going to end up being about $15,000 because for either of them to work, we're going to have to replace the pump. And then we're going to have to have something on, we're going to have to replace the pump anyway. And that's going to be about $8,000.
And this will put out a relay, receipt or whatever you want to call it, right on a, so you can sort of track each vehicle.
So what I'm looking for, the low price bid that Beardsley put out has a key for each vehicle. So that each vehicle goes in and they've got their own meter, but you can't tell what time or how much it was, throughout the day, how many trips. You can just see what the last time you recorded it versus what this time is. And
It'd be nice to know each time.
It would be nice to know each
That's
time.
not going to accomplish what we need to.
And so that's the additional,
We want to know if
Funding.
Rescue Link goes up there 2:13 in the morning and gets 20 gallons.
well, Rescue Inc. versus the fire truck.
department, or the guys are out plowing or something. Just
There's
So-
got to be a way
There is a way to do it, and it's going to be about $15,000. So I will.
Wait a minute, 15,000 altogether including that, or that's a $15,000 system on top?
All together with the pump.
Okay.
and we need a pump anyway.
We've got to put a pump in there.
That's
to.
why
Understand, we got to do that regardless, right?
We've got to do that regardless.
Gotta have it.
And that's going to be about $8,000.
But
I
it would
just-
just be nice to have being, 2012, you not scribbling on a notepad and little bird.
No, and I just, seems to me, again, I'm not up to technology, you know, I'm just learning to do my email now, that I don't get.
Are you really?
Well, nobody ever sends me an email, so I
Well,
can't
we give it
practice.
up on it.
You will say that, because I sent you a heck of a lot of forms.
Yeah, you don't
What?
know.
Oh, you send them to Arthur.
He goes, what not though?
Kid, you don't have your email address.
I don't know what it is. But anyhow,
Well, that would explain why nobody, it does.
no, you've sent me an email.
You got Kit Martin at SV Cable, you've got Kit at
That's what it
Townsend
is.
Auctions, and then you've got Kit Carroll
That's
Hart.
what cable's doing.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah,
got
that's
Kit Carroll
right.
Hart, and
But
everybody
any-
uses a different one. So you should be getting all kinds of.
Anyhow,
Kit
it
Martin
seems to
had-
me
I'll send it.
that
That's not TV now.
there should be a way that each town employee gets like a credit card and it goes in the pump. So I know, we know, whoever knows who pumped what,
And when?
when,
And
pumped it,
And
how much they pumped.
It's a card key, and it just.
it's a
takes
card
all
key
Yeah.
and it sits there. These guys actually have, and this is SCI out of, distribution out of Florida.
Everybody's
They actually
card's
have-
different, so,
Yeah, it's
That's
like
right.
credit.
They actually have two different sections, two different groups that work together. They have one that has a little thing on your key fob
Yeah,
for each vehicle, so that whenever you walk up, whenever
Like
you
a
go up
speed
there,
pass.
like a speed pass, you wave your speed pass and it logs it.
that would be nice to have.
They've got an additional $4,000, $4,500 option that each vehicle would have a ring around the filler neck. And whenever you put the pump in there, not only does it tell you what was purchased at what time, but it records the odometer reading, it records the hour reading,
That would be
it
nice.
can record
I don't know if we can.
different things off of the truck so that it will tell you how the truck is performing.
well,
So,
I'm just saying
The
that.
one with the key fob is about it's $5,000 over the cost of the pump. The other one is an additional $4,000. So what I will do is I will bring you information, I'll get updated quotes so that you can have it at the next meeting to make a decision.
Great, okay.
And what their service contract,
And
if you
there's-
can, or something, like the ones in Florida, they have a branch in Springfield, Mass, or somewhere, or.
Boston or somewhere across some trip.
Yeah,
I will get that.
I don't see anything else on here involving Kurt.
Unless you want him to be around for the fire pond RFP.
Oh, okay.
And basically, we've got to put the fire pond out for bid. So do y'all want a short form, which of course, I'll make sure it includes a copy of this, and I will send each one of you a copy of this.
if we're gonna invite local contractors.
I
mean,
think
we're
a
gonna
short
want the
form.
short form.
Well, but I think we also need to talk about what we mean by the short
What do
form
you want included in that short?
in terms of, insurance requirements and that kind of
So
stuff.
who is paying to get rid of the tree? Forget the
Who's
homeowner, the
paying?
landowner, or
No, it would
Doubt
be,
it.
be us?
it would be us. It
That
would
would
be
be
the
a
town
different-
select board.
That would be included in that repairing of the,
Already
Fire
included
pond.
in this is,
we'd have to get a tree, so that thing is
we would have to get a tree service, we have to remove,
and then we gotta decide what we want done with the rest of that thing.
there are already trees that are laying down that need to be pulled out. The permit specifies that they need to be removed. The
Yeah.
trees close to the fire pond, immediately around the fire pond have to be removed. So there's some tree work there that has to be done. Some of it might be possible for the community service workers to do some of it. I don't know how much tree work Alex and his crew do.
Be my suggestion, write up a list of what needs to be done and then include it in your RFP and put it
Okay.
out. And I think if you try to get Alex, the community service workers to do a little bit of this and then the tree service come, there's too much coordination. If you want it done, you write up what you need done and put it out.
Because most of it, essentially,
Actually, the contract.
it's in the invitation to bid.
That's what I do.
Contractor.
So
Subcontractor, whatever.
That's whatever they want. They're gonna figure it in their price and you're gonna tell them what you want. I mean, we could sit here and hash this until next year. and
Yeah, we're not going to.
All right, then what I will do is I will get, essentially, the invitation to bid changed and get a copy of it to you, and you can take a look at it, and we'll put it in the paper.
Is there a timeline? You gotta get that down or no?
Well, right now, the fire pond isn't holding water. It's not filling with water. It needs to be dredged. The outlet channel needs to be fixed. So there's a lot of excavation.
Do we have pipe enough water to get from the, like our fire pull-off down there to the center of town and draft it out of the river?
Yeah, we can get up to,
Well, I was thinking the center of town. You can get to the center. That's all you can get a
we
truck.
got enough to come up to like, I don't know. We can get up to like Mike Cutts's with what we got.
Yeah.
Probably farther.
Yeah.
I just,
Can they get up to your house?
So setting trucks up, we can draft out of the river and get to the center of town.
But in talking to Doug, Chief Wynot, the dry hydrant in the river, he wasn't sure when the last time it had been backflush.
They're doing it on,
And he wasn't sure if Irene had covered it. And he knows
So
that
they should be checking that out.
it's also steel pipe. And whenever they pulled from it, they've also been getting rust particles.
no, that's this one over here.
Yeah.
Well, he was thinking, because I was talking to him this weekend, he was thinking that it was
That's
that
not
one
a,
as well.
That's brand new.
I thought it was new.
yeah. But that's not a big deal if they're spraying it on a fire though, is it?
Well, if
Somebody-
it's going through your, if it's going through the pump, it is.
You don't want anything.
Oh,
That one's new, that's not very old. I think.
No,
One
I
down
don't
Little
think
Mike,
it's
right?
steel either. If it is, it's stainless steel.
I just think, you know, from our standpoint, the board's responsibility, if
No, but it isn't.
you or whoever's doing this gets the, whatever's needed and gets it written up, we need this, that, and the other, put it out for bid. And
yeah.
because I'm beginning to feel like we're sitting here in the select board, all of us hashing this stuff over that you've already hashed somewhere. Even like with Kurt in a lot of the highway stuff, as highway commissioners, if you guys meet with Kurt and say, yeah, this is what needs done at the roadside mowing, when you come to the select board meeting, you say, we put the roadside mowing out to bid and we'll be opening bids on it. I just don't think that we need to rehash all the highway commissioners, each one of the things that you guys have already decided. I mean, to me, that's pretty plain. Every year we do roadside mowing. So when you come to the select board meeting, we put the highway mowing out in bed. I mean, we know.
It's
I mean,
more
that's-
just having instructions as to how you want us to perform.
I just think that, you know, don't you think, Kurt, is, we spend an hour and a half here just talking about
That's fine.
stuff, and I don't mind, but I just don't think that a lot of this hashing out we need to do. I think that's pretty standard stuff that you guys can do when you come to the board meeting and say, this is what we're doing, and that's,
This one's gonna be going out to bid, so expect to be opening bid documents on it.
Yeah,
Okay, are we,
I think so. Are we?
yeah, Kurt, do you want to be involved in any of the ancient roads site visits? Should you be, for some reason?
For some reason, if you want me there, I will be there, yeah. If you have any questions on stuff that already been on,
I expect we've already been on most of it. And I hate to use your time for a couple of half days, I guess what I'd be inclined to say is, we might call on you at some point.
absolutely.
After we've done site visits, if we come up with questions for you. And that might not even involve standing in the middle of that road to ask our questions, who knows? Okay.
I'll send out a letter to the butters, just to walk around. These are correct. They're gonna have a site visit. But anyway, that's where we made it. Sorry. Third. I can have
Okay, if we're done with her, I would suggest we take a quick break before we get into non-enforcement. Joe,
Hello. Okay, done. The dog warrant started taking care of. All the unlicensed critters have been licensed,
every single one?
including this gentle wolf. So that is done. Sometimes the honey works better than the vinegar.
Good job.
Oh, most often.
Good
So,
job.
Very good.
Couple of things that I wanted to bring up. We've had a couple of suspicious individuals who reported to me up at the dam at closing time, and so I've been going up there just figuring that there's only one other person from the Corps of Engineers that are available. And I found an individual up there that we've moved along. Marissa, I think she's maybe 17, is working. She must be 18 to work for the Corps, but we go up there, and if nothing more than just to show the flag that there's another person there, and that's been working. We've had some issues with the Scott Bridge closure. I've been there 3 times and wired it back together. I don't know if we're going to get anywhere with the state on that, but if it's an issue of the snow load, I don't think we've got too many major snowstorms predicted for the next couple of months.
Well, but they seem to have many more issues than that.
Can we get something to them to maintain that fencing system? Because I have been back there with all of my wire and repairs to put it back together, and I've yet to see a state vehicle.
I think you should leave it alone.
I do too. I don't think that's our responsibility.
Well, I'm just concerned because somebody's gonna get caught on it,
Yeah,
and, you know,
we should not start babysitting that
Yeah.
thing, 'cause it's
I
not
agree.
ours.
But again,
Yeah, but we're not watching.
All right.
I'd leave it alone. Call the historic, state
the
preservation.
state needs AOT, is the agency that should be
Yeah,
handling
but
this.
don't-
I don't know if it officially
touch
you
it
folks
again.
can say something about it. I tried.
It's in the works again.
I'm gonna be contacting Tammy Ellis on some other issues, so.
But again, if I'm understanding that correctly, it was the snow load that they were concerned with, which is why we closed it, so I'm kind of lost on that. But,
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's our responsibility.
Maybe this winter,
I agree.
we'll have a heavy snow load and it'll cure the problem.
Step back away from that one.
We also had a lot of sign vandalism on State Forest Road very recently, and
Our new speed limit
some of the
signs?
signs have been defaced. So there's some information coming in that we may be able to work towards, and certainly if that is the case, then perhaps the individuals would like to clean some signs.
Have you called the sheriff's department?
I have not, I've talked to VSP.
Kurt, we talked about this Thursday, right?
We talked about this on Thursday,
Are they gonna contact? I can't
and
remember.
I thought he was gonna contact.
I mean, I talked to VSP, and, you know, I mean, we can file a complaint, or we can follow up with it, you know. They tend to be more likely in the area than the sheriff's department on that road, mainly because of the state park, and they are over that way. But again, anything that I get, I can pass on to them. So,
Yeah, probably, maybe just touch base with Kurt, just make sure.
Yeah.
He might know, 'cause we talked about it Thursday, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think when something like that happens, make sure that you talk with Kirk, because
Well-
it's highway related, and then,
I would have liked to have had him call me. You know, I found out because I drove over there and saw it, and nobody had said a word. You know, I mean, it'd be nice to have some communication there. I mean, I understand that the sheriff's department and Vermont State Police, but I mean, like I say, sometimes, you know, we may have more information available to us that we can go forward with.
well, stop up and have a chat with him.
Yeah, I will.
See if
I
we
will.
can initiate that, I would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Again, also,
Yeah, through our, these guys here.
right,
Doc-
yeah,
It should be documented though with the sheriff. I mean, just
Absolutely.
as a
Yeah,
matter
we
of
want
record,
the-
that such and such a time notice this.
you know, but again, like I say, VSP through me, Kurt wants to go to the sheriff's department, that's fine. I mean, file it, it has to be an official complaint. So that would be under his bailiwick there. We just recently got appointed as the training officer for the fire department, so one of the first things that we're gonna try to do is get a flagging class. It's been several years since we've had that happen. Everybody that has a card, it's supposed to be refreshed after so many years. But maybe, you know, there may be some individuals around during the day that may be able to help offset the cost of that traffic control issue. I don't know. But just to let you know that that's going forward. Other than that, you know, people, we've had, again, the usual fireworks complaints for that. Just giving the hairy eyeball and it works.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just like, you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, give us a break. Other than that, like I say, graduation went really well. It was really one of those things when you watch a youngest kid graduate. Yeah, I was crying, it's all good, you know, whatever. It's all good. But again, like I say, there weren't any issues that I could see. The parking and everything worked out very well. People knew what they were doing and they were well with it, except for the 2.5 hours sitting in the sun. But so other than that, you guys have anything for me or?
I don't know. You?
Not at this particular moment, no, I don't. But I do have some concerns.
Were the fireworks on Route 35?
What's that?
Fireworks on Route 35?
Yeah, that was there. We also had the fireworks at graduation, which, yeah.
We'll have to touch upon those, but I'll probably be an executive.
Okay, Kit, have you made progress with, a town policy for?
No,
ordinance?
not in light of the June 15th letter from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which you have a copy of. And liability and that kind of thing. And I'm not familiar, you probably are, but the other act, so I'm gonna just do some more studying in there.
We're scheduled in September, I am, for a week-long class.
Okay.
So that will take care of that issue.
What is this class for?
What's that?
What is this class for?
It's for myself as a constable to have the basic part-time police training.
Yeah.
That,
What's
there's
that?
no charge for it. It's something I'm doing on my own.
What's it mean, part-time police?
You're certified as a part-time police officer in the state of Vermont should you decide to work part-time somewhere. But it's also in there for learning all of the regulations, the violations, and things of that nature.
It's the act that's relating to certification of Capitol Police and constables. Right? That's what we're talking
What
about.
is it?
Certification. Constables.
You're doing this on your own accord, but, I mean, the voters are pretty clear on what.
Well, I think that's why we need a town ordinance that very clearly defines what we want Joe to do and what we don't want him to do. So that, because obviously right now he's winging it.
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea, and I want people to understand too, that, I mean, it's almost like people are saying knowledge is bad. For going to these classes, it would be like saying to the road agent that we don't think you should go to a culvert class because we don't think we believe in culverts.
Well, no.
And I understand that there are certain things that we need to be aware of just to protect ourselves.
They were concerned with somebody running road, like,
Yeah.
As far as going for a call out for someone saying a suspicious person, I would go whether I was the constable or not. I would go as a fireman if you want. You can say what you like, I mean, but that's there. That's my duty as a person. And if the town doesn't want me to do that as a town constable, that's fine. But the situations that are occurring are things that we've been able to take care of without any kind of an issue. Nobody said a word. It's been very low key. I mean, I guess, you know.
I understand, but I think, having heard you say that, one of the concerns would be is you are an elected official.
That's correct.
Right? And as an elected official, you can't just switch hats and take it off. Now I am, now I'm not, now I am, and now I'm not. Now I'm acting as a citizen. Same as me. If I'm down at the local market or wherever, people view me as a select board member. And that's the way I present. Whether, I'm not a select board member, now I can go do this or you can't. And it's part of taking the public position is you are 24/7 viewed as a constable. So don't.
You can't switch that.
I'm concerned, you know, and I know that as a person you'd be there in a heartbeat. I know that. And I would never take that away from you. You know, I think that's one of your good attributes. But you have to, I think, be careful of where you go and how you present yourself, because regardless, they're going to see you as the law enforcement, as a constable, as that. And my concern is the realm of duties, and this letter from Vermont Leagues outlining liability and liability coverage and that sort of thing lends to being more concerned about what your particular activities entail and how that's done. That's all.
No, I agree, and that's why, like I said, that's why that training is something that I think it would behoove us to have at least that knowledge of what we would be up against. And as there's no charge at that point, I think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And again, if someone calls me with an issue, then I respond to it. I mean, I don't respond without, someone calling and saying there's an issue. And if it's something that's beyond our realm, then we would suggest the sheriff's department or VSP.
Well, like, I'd say a suspicious person in the dam would be the sheriff's department should be notified.
Yeah, they were. Actually, it wasn't the sheriff's department, it was VSP.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, that's just one of those things. And if you think that's the way it should be, then that's fine. I don't have an issue.
Yeah, I think it should be every time, no matter any call in, if it's a suspicious person, a domestic, anything like that, our law enforcement should be notified.
Then what Hetty's remark was that there should be a document outlining what the town constable's expected services are.
Yep.
And when I looked in Vermont League of Cities and Towns in the handbook, which I'm sure you've read and gone over, I am in the process of looking and trying to interpret how it best serves our town and what kind of coverage and that sort of thing. So we as a board are in the process of developing a document that outlines constables, all right? And when we have a rough draft of that, then I'll sit down with you and add, delete, and get it all very squared off. And it's for the protection of the town. Is that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the best way to look at it.
Now we can move along.
Yeah.
I think we probably all agree with your comments, Kid. I certainly do.
Yep.
Like I said, I just do have.
Did you have anything else?
No, I didn't have anything else.
Bring them up.
That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good job with the dog one.
Yeah.
Good job with the dog one.
Just like I said,
Thank you.
Patience.
Town clerk's report, we've all gotten copies of, I assume, looked at it. Joe, do you have any sort of a treasurer's report?
Yes, I do. The four-quarter tax payments this past year, the delinquent part is $171,469.25 as of the 15th.
That's just the fourth quarter.
No,
That's all four quarters.
all four quarters.
That's for the whole year.
FY 11, 12.
And the general fund, you have before these warrants, you have $908,416.74 in the checking account.
That ain't gonna cover the warrant, is it?
Yeah,
And just barely.
Yeah, I think we'll have a little.
take 9/16 of it, I guess, 5/8.
No.
No, we still have that open line of credit though, right? That's still in place.
Yeah, we've still got, well, we've only got half of it.
But there's still some there,
Yeah.
and it's still open, and
Oh, yeah.
we still have access.
Yeah,
to
that's
it.
good until December.
Because if we're gonna do something that's gonna cut our cash on hand down to nothing, then maybe we wanna readjust and save some cash on hand and.
We'll be all right.
She's got quite a few thousand then.
Yeah.
Like the equipment fund is 50,000 owed to the general fund. RDAG, 40,000 is, now $5,303.02 is owed to the general fund. And
So for a little short, Joe will chip in.
You won't be able to buy cars and anything for the old 48, but.
that's about it.
In the warrants that we signed tonight, there were several tax rebates.
Yeah,
What's that about?
people overpaid.
How did that?
How
I
did
mean,
that
because there
happen?
was quite a few, and some
Yeah.
of them are quite a lot of money.
Well, we gotta be in here and help collect
No.
taxes. They come in, they don't know where their tax bill is, I haven't got my stub, but I think it's this much. I'll look it up for you. No, I'm paying you this. So you take it. And it brings it off from the next one, the overage. So at the last one, you're ending up with an overage.
Okay.
And some of them are, they revised their tax bill because they were late filing for their state payment,
Mm-hmm.
and it came in, and if they paid 2 or 3 quarters in advance, that screwed it up like that.
Okay.
I'd rather have them overpay than underpay.
Well, that's true.
As long as we don't spend the money before we refund.
Right, before we refund it.
But it wasn't that much.
No, but it was a chunk.
You know, it's what, 5 or 6.
And I just wondered how, if it
Yeah.
was part of our billing error or how.
Well, some of that is escrow too.
Okay, well, thank you, Joe. I think we're ready to move on to emergency management.
But the only thing I've got is one of the people that we sponsored to get some training last year did not pass the course. They were a couple of percentages short of passing the course. So the person reimbursed the cost for that training.
Pretty nice.
So there's some funding that's going back in emergency management, and I'd like to use it to pick up a radio and 2 Class 3 ANSI jackets for the constables.
What? What kind of jacket?
The ANSI Class 3 high reflective that say constable on the back.
And why would they be particularly useful?
Yeah.
And what do they cost?
2 jackets would cost about $96. They're 3-season jackets, and so if they're out in the middle of traffic somewhere, they can be seen and they won't be roadkill.
I'm the same ones that
The
we got.
same ones that the fire department got. So the money is there in the emergency management fund. I had $550 come back, so.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned.
It's at your discretion.
Other than that, I've been busy writing grants, so that's it. We can move on.
Okay, are you here for some reason, Ryan? I mean,
Because other than someone needs to keep an eye on the government.
right,
Other than that,
right, other than that.
not particularly.
Okay. What I mean is you need to be called on as a member of the public.
As a member of the public, I'd like to make a statement, if that helps.
If it's short,
It is. I would urge the board to be very aware of how it deals with volunteers of any position. We had difficulty filling listers positions in the past. We've had to reduce the number of planning commissioners, in part from a lack of volunteers. We failed to outreach for volunteers and ended up paying a town employee to do something that we have had in the past. Volunteers do. We have people volunteering for sometimes elected positions that are still unpaid. Other volunteers to include emergency management, the constabulary, our volunteer fire department, and other people. This town goes out of its way again and again to alienate people who are trying to help instead of working with them. And we need to be conscious and very careful when we sit up there on that side of the table and tell everybody else to walk on eggshells. At some point, we're going to run out of people to volunteer for things. A lot of things this town wants to turn around and pay for or pay someone else to do. Sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons. But while we still have volunteers who want to be trained, who want to go through the hoops to, we're talking about people, contractors, people who are getting paid, who don't want to go through the loops of a 13-page contract. But when we've got volunteers for various positions, whether it's auditors or listers, people who are giving up their time, some compensated, some not, we need to be very careful when we're telling people we don't want your help, because people are going to stop helping. That's all I have to say.
okay, I have a question for you as solid waste. Have you done any checking yet with the state about what, if anything, we can do with the old dump site?
We cannot reopen a facility, to the best of my understanding, of the variety that was there previously. Beyond that, we haven't talked to the state about it.
But that was never a possibility. I think what we need to know is, can we make that a recycling center?
And I would recommend that the select board bring in the chair that they appointed for that committee, or send official correspondence to direct the committee to look into that, because that is not on the list of tasks that the committee itself is working on.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Southern Vermont Trail Riders Memorandum of Understanding. I have not met with Lloyd Church yet, so I have nothing to report, and I certainly will by the next meeting. I'm not sure how excited Jeff is about cemetery rights of way, so I can update you on that.
Did you want to go through the one
No, not without Jeff.
without Jeff?
Not without Jeff. That's why I'm thinking I'll move down to the cemetery rights away and get that out of the way.
Other than correspondence, just pass over correspondence, because I just wrote it down, other than correspondence that you've already received, there isn't any, and there was nothing you said.
Okay.
But the biggest one was the one from the ACA, that's what you got today. That's the ordinance,
Oh,
the highway,
yeah.
Townshend highway stuff.
Good.
If you want to copy that.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
From Charlie's and my contacts with Linda Beck on one of the cemeteries in West Townsend, she's not wanting to grant us a right-of-way. Now, we know that legally we can always have access to that cemetery, but we were hoping for a right-of-way that would allow us to bring a vehicle in there and various things. And he has drafted,
he being Charlie.
he being Charlie, a proposed agreement with her about it, and hasn't heard back from her. The Murrays are having a little piece of their land surveyed. We're kind of waiting for that to happen. But they are very willing, and basically it's a funny little job. That's the question that we need the survey on. For the Brigham Cemetery, the owner of that property wants to grant the cemetery commission a right-of-way. I'm not sure she totally understands the difference between just saying, yes, you can use it, and a deeded right-of-way. But what she wants to grant the cemetery commission is not terribly practical, and she doesn't want to grant them what used to be the access to the cemetery, really. And so we're still working on that, and I have another angle on which to work that. So perhaps we will have some progress on that by next week. So that's the cemeteries. And then back to the Sheriff's Department contracts.
We have new copies of that
Yeah.
in today's mail, so it's updated.
Well, we've got copies.
Well, there's
of
two
the-
different ones.
Yeah, the one with the rebuilding money for,
What's the contract number?
There's two different contracts.
Let's do it.
There's a contract 11-008 and a contract number 12.
yes.
Number 12 is what we're looking at.
Well, we don't know. I mean, that's one of the things. These are two different contracts. One being simply a certain number of hours per month. The other one being,
A little more lenient. I mean, it gives them a little more flexibility in their duties, as well as flexibility and coverage for us.
well, I see
My
a
interpretation.
couple things wrong with the number 11 if we decide to go with that one. The number 12 really is that they would hold back like 6.5 hours a month to dedicate toward investigations and things. We'll see that on paragraph 6.
Yeah, because in contract 11, it talks about the conditions of investigating, and one of my concerns was they could eat up your whole 20,000 in one investigation.
Well,
That's
wait a
happened
minute.
once. But that's addressed in contract number 12.
Wait a minute, what does it say in 11?
It says, contract conditions include but are not limited to furnishing random patrols, investigating, apprehending, So investigating is hanging there open. In contract 12, I think it's under 15, it addresses the department shall refer all requests for policing services outside the scope of other services outlined in paragraph 1 to Vermont State Police and other appropriate agencies. The referral to appropriate agencies will also occur when, in the opinion of the department or town, the incident will result in significant financial burden to the town. If you recall, one of my concerns was if the sheriff's department became involved in a lengthy investigation, it would rapidly eat up the $20,000 budget. But I think that 15 on contract 12 addresses that.
Okay, I think that we need to talk a little bit about whether we want them to be doing investigations, whether we want them to spend 6.5 hours a month on that or saving that. Hang on a second, Ryan. I see you there. Well, wait a minute. What?
This bid is similar to previous years in the $25,000 range, roughly?
20,000.
20 was last year's, yeah.
Somewhere in that, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Did we solicit a bid from the state police also?
Yeah.
So
This
our earlier
actually-
discussion where we want bids over 15,000 don't apply to law enforcement for putting them out to bid. There are other agencies to include the state police. I mean, we have more than one option, but we're not even considering that option.
This is not a bid. We put out bids for law enforcement. This is a contract that we've discussed in historically used Wyndham County Sheriff for. In the past, other times, we have contracted with Vermont State Police.
And they traditionally charge twice as much per hour for contract services.
But it's my understanding, in the last 3 years, the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department has become law enforcement of note for the services that the town of Townshend needs. And the scope of these services are outlined in the contract. So, number one, it's not a bid process, because we can put it out to private enforcement agencies if we so chose. And I believe that in the interest of the town, we're discussing contractual matters. Actually should do that in executive session anyhow.
Well, we can.
So the concern about whether using it, what the bidding process is, this is not a bid. And historically, it has not been a bid. Am I right?
So we have no interest in reviewing our other options to see if they've changed this year, requesting some kind of information from the state police to see if the sheriff is still maintaining the same level of competitive advantage over other agencies. No interest from the town whatsoever in comparing other options.
I believe, at least I for one, am satisfied with the services that we've gotten from Wyndham County Sheriff's Department. I don't think that it interferes with any services that we get from Vermont State Police. In fact, this contract from Wyndham County Sheriff's Department alludes to using Vermont State Police where appropriate. We have not sat down to do contractual services with Vermont State Police and did not see the need to do that at this point in time, at least from my standpoint. I don't know if any other.
Just double checking to make sure that, you know, if we're going to sit down and spend this amount of money, we've at least considered other options as you said, in the last 2 or 3 years,
I hear you.
have we gone back to the other options? And I mean, generally when you've got 2 competitors bidding for a contract, you have some leverage against the other person. But if we're only looking at one contract and the sheriff's department knows it, they're dictating the terms of this contract. As you can see, you're reading their offer instead of making them an offer.
Well, I think that we certainly, there's room for us to negotiate some things with them. We don't have to just,
And that's not exactly true. Wyndham County Sheriff was here 2 meetings ago when we discussed our concerns and what we were looking for as a
And
board,
some of this
and
is the
he
answer.
included it. This is his answer to the town's needs and desires, am I right?
yes. But in answer to your other question, I think, we found a few years ago that the state police were so much more expensive, and certainly the fact that they were competing with the sheriff's department did not affect that in the least.
You know, I think, I'm not sure, but I think that if we found that we weren't getting adequate law enforcement services, we would certainly go to the Vermont State Police and see what they have to offer. We may do that in conjunction, I don't know. Right now, we're talking about Wyndham County Sheriff's Department contract.
Okay, and I'm still with the basic difference here. With do we want them investigating, for example, motor vehicle accidents is one of the things that they specifically have on contract 12 and not 11. That's the kind of thing that they want to hold out a little money each month for.
And that's the kind of thing I think that we had asked them about before, the difference between investigation and investigating, because we frequently use them in motor vehicle accidents as well as Vermont State. Actually, Vermont State Police has referred calls to Wyndham County Sheriff's Department when they're short manned. Vermont State Police, by the way, is very short manned from my understanding.
But they are the 911 responder, but they do call sheriff.
They are 911
If there was a
responder.
fatality, it's a non-serious act, right?
I would be concerned that if the department that responds to a motor vehicle accident, for them, we're going to get billed for their response. For them then to have to package up all the information of that officer that's responding and hand it off to another department to do the investigation, we're going to get double billed for some of it, because I know it's going to take an officer a few minutes to come up to speed, and depending upon the amount of investigation that is done by the incident commander on the scene.
Well, I think that's addressed in number 15.
Well, and number 12.
Yeah. But the money part and the investigation part, the financial part, is addressed in the last sentence in number 15. That's the one that we were concerned, at least I was concerned about, and asked Sheriff Clark to address.
But to say, you know, to either put all of the investigation, accident investigation on the sheriffs, or remove them from doing motor vehicle investigation. I think depending upon who's responding to the incident.
I'm not sure that I follow what you're saying.
If we put in the contract that we don't want them investigating motor vehicle accidents, a good portion of the time they're here. So for them to respond, because as public safety, they are going to respond, they're going to control the scene, but then to all the supporting documentation that that deputy will be creating, he would then have to turn over to a Vermont State Police officer. But at the same time, so when the Vermont State Police officer comes in to begin his investigation, he would be duplicating some of the work from the sheriff's deputy. And the reverse is true.
Yeah, I don't know how you get around that one.
I don't either. Do other people
We
have?
really haven't had problems with that
No.
anyhow.
No.
We probably don't notice it in the building. I guess, I don't know how they would go before.
Well, the building tells what hours they've done traffic patrol and where they've set. You don't put them away, but
Right.
You want
tells where they've done.
No, I've seen those,
speed.
but say for, as an accident, do we get another thing from the state, Vermont State Police? No, that's
They
it.
don't. But if they can, I mean, that's the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department and Vermont State Police work hand in hand.
Mhm.
I mean, that's part of.
Well, I think he's just worried about getting double billed, pretty much. but see-
I'm worried about putting any language into this contract that would enable us to get double billed.
Well, we're not gonna get billed by the state police.
But if we remove the sheriff's department's ability to work motor vehicle accidents, the possibility is that we would get double billed. We wouldn't get double billed for all of it, but the deputy that's on scene,
I wouldn't remove it.
and that's where I was unsure of where you were headed.
Okay, so contract 12 seems to cover that more thoroughly.
Yes. The other comment in contract 12, the average of hours has dropped from 40 to 38 and a half, which is an hour and a half a month. I'm not sure why that is, whether it's how that.
Yeah,
I'm not particularly concerned with that
I
either.
suspect that has partly to do with administrative costs, which are in here somewhere.
You know, and historically, once again, any of the law enforcement, whether it's Wyndham County Sheriffs or Vermont State Police, have more than paid their own salaries anyhow, just in traffic controls and fines and rebates. I don't think it's an area of a lot of concern money-wise
No,
in how that's done.
and that's another thing that I think was not happening with the state police.
Well, before, because that's the only thing I've got to reference it by. With the Vermont State Police, the difficulty was manpower. They did not have manpower, and when you needed someone, they had to come from Shaftesbury
Yeah,
or Rutland. And I know there's barracks in Brattleboro, but they're not always covered.
Well, I still don't think they have.
When
to
you
get
were,
that.
when you were last on the board, we had a split agreement. Half the
Yeah.
money went to Wyndham
Yeah.
County Sheriff and half the money went to the Vermont State Police.
And at that time, I think at the end of that, Vermont State Police,
They
they didn't want a contract.
They don't
anyhow.
come.
And I think that Newfane is having the same problem, and the only reason I referenced them is because I knew they had worked with Vermont State Police up until this year, and now have gone back to the Sheriff's Department, just because many times it just is more logical and
Yeah.
makes sense, and not duplicating services, because I think they both work hand in hand.
But the sheriff, and you may not have been here, the sheriff's department also adopted a policy, either through the Sheriff's Association or some other, for exclusivity, that they would not take a contract if there was
Kit
a
and I
need.
talked
I
about
read
that.
that, and it was
So, but I
upsetting
mean,
to some
well,
degree.
but they are here, and they've increased their manpower and their equipment and their response time.
Yeah. No, if that still holds water or not, because I understand other towns are working with both, but that's something we can look at if we need to.
Well, I'm just saying, that was why the transition, 3 years ago, I believe, to Wyndham County Sheriff. And then they came up with these grant programs that increase their presence and profile.
Jeff and Chad, I haven't heard much from either of you. Are we ready to vote on one of these, I guess?
Sounds straightforward to me.
I make a motion that we enter into contract number 12 with the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department for the period July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2013, as outlined in the contract.
I second that.
You seconded it. Okay, Ryan?
Does that version of the contract have anything in it about the sheriff interfacing with the constable's office?
It does not.
So they have no requirement to share information, back up our constable or anything else?
No.
No obligation to share training, nothing?
No.
Okay.
And historically, they have.
Well, I think.
I would disagree with that assessment, Mr. Russ. I would have you know that there are several other towns whose constables work very closely with the sheriff's department, and it's been Townsend's choice not to have that in their contract.
Well, it's not just a matter of in the contract, it's a matter of what Townsend has chosen to use our constable for.
But the town of Townshend cannot make an ordinance that would remove a power given to the constable by the state legislature.
That's right.
That's true.
And I know that this contract before us points to the need of a liaison between the town and the sheriff department.
Which you have done in the past.
In the contract also states that it will interface. It doesn't say constable per se, but with other law enforcement agencies. I don't know which paragraph that is.
I didn't see that in there. I think it was like 12 or...
The department shall refer all requests for policing services outside the scope of the services of the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department, the Vermont State Police, and other appropriate agencies, except in the cases where imminent threat to life, safety, welfare, property, and animal welfare exist.
Well, and it's very clear that we're to designate a select board member or administrative staff to be the liaison. Well, are we ready for a vote? I think we are.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor. Did anybody else have any other comments?
In listening to Ryan's comment, I don't know if, before we enter into this, if it's the board's pleasure to request that they specifically put in here to interface and work with the town's constable,
Yeah, but it's
where it's needed.
it's already...
I don't object to that, I don't know if anybody else does.
It's already right there.
Well, I mean, I'm talking specifically, I don't
I don't know if it needs to be specifically, but...
Department, I don't know.
Thanks for
And
filling it
I
out.
talked, I'd ask Keith about it, see what other towns do.
I think spelling it out wouldn't hurt.
I don't object to spelling it out.
Well, what is it we're asking them to do?
But
once the board determines what additional duties over and above
I think
the
that's,
state
Well,
duties
that's
that
what
the
we gotta
board
do
wants the
first.
constable to do, then
see, you've got a couple of issues here. Number one is what do we want the sheriff to do? And you got the constable now. The constable has been elected. He's a publicly elected official, and his duties are outlined by statute from the day that he was elected. We, as a board, are looking to prepare documents that outline his duty or specifically, in which we certainly have the right and the power to do. Maybe different than whatever the Vermont statutes are. I'm not sure of that. I hear Ryan's concern if it's spelled out here that we do have a constable in town and we'd expect you to interface with them, like, for example, these signs. I mean, I have a little bit of concern about vandalism, and maybe not just road signs, but the constable going to the Vermont State Police and the Sheriff's Department not being notified. And so it's kind of like two hands. If Kurt's working with the Sheriff's Department and Joe's working with the Vermont State Police, then we begin to get convoluted. If we outline in this contract that we would like the Sheriff's Department to interact appropriately with the constable, then it's got to be kind of both ways. And I would expect that in return from the constable, if you want to be specific about it. I mean, I don't know if you need to. I don't think you ought to have to be, but maybe you do have to be at this point in time.
well, something,
I don't think it would hurt.
I don't know whether 17 would be the place to add that.
I'd add new articles to make it
Just make it stand out.
number 22 and something to the
Or
effect of
Well, I
the
think,
department will agree to respond to and kids will
Because
interact
you're right,
appropriately.
the constable should be working with whomever the town contracts with to make sure that,
I think so.
responses to fireworks,
I just think that
sign.
I would just think that we should speak to Sheriff Clark about it and see how other towns word it in their contracts, if in fact it is worded, and what the expectations of the interaction between Wyndham County Sheriff and how that works out in other towns.
I would be
You know,
more
and
than
I know-
happy, since
I
I
know
know
we're
that you're
getting-
researching.
I know we're
other-
getting just a little bit late on contract, and I don't think Keith will mind with that, and we can, if it works out, we can finish it at the next meeting.
You can amend the motion to make it contingent upon a satisfactory discussion with, arrangement with Keith to support
I'll second
the
the
duties.
motion with that amendment.
to support the duties that you outlined for the constables.
No, but
Respond.
yeah,
you're still working on that, then that way at least the right hand and the left hand are working together.
Because they do want copies of all ordinances and policies of the town
Yep.
for their
As
files,
it should be.
as should be, and if one of those outlines the duties of the constables, I think you can have something in here that they respond and, as you said, interact appropriately with, in response to a call from the constable or.
okay, so the motion is,
The motion is, as it is right now, motion to enter into contract with the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department as,
Contract number 12.
well, as specified in proposal number,
Okay.
contract proposal number 12 for the term July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2013, seconded by Jeff Ross. And then if you amend that, something to be contingent upon satisfactory, might not be the right word, but satisfactory discussion with the sheriff regarding developing role of the town's constable.
yeah,
Constables, excuse me. Constables.
They want it in here that both constables.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, all in favor of the motion as amended?
aye.
That was me.
The other time.
So now,
Now, we need to figure out a liaison. I would be happy to do that, but be okay if somebody else wants to.
I'm wondering why the constable.
Because specifically, it needs to be a select person.
Or an administrator.
Yeah,
that's specific in the contract.
But that's specific. What's the liaison application?
well, right now, sit down and hash out that additional language for the
Constable,
Yeah.
contract.
Yes.
whenever you
I wanna
have
do that.
problems.
What'd you say?
I want to do that.
You want to do that?
You can be the liaison with the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department.
Yep.
Okay,
Jeff?
Good.
great. So, now we're up to Scott Bridge update.
Which I don't, because they didn't respond, other than I have taken some pictures of the opening on the gates there, and I don't really have a hard ass draft for 11 at this point, but it's kind of in the works. I did send you one that I was going to send last week that wasn't
I thought
quite hard enough,
way too mild.
way too mild, and
We will have good snow this year and it'll cure our problem.
Well,
I don't think it's that problem.
everybody get the email from Matt Mann?
Yeah.
It came in late this afternoon, or sometime this afternoon,
I didn't get that one.
saying, informing us that there was gonna be a meeting on the 12th of July, and what's, a floor and conference room it would be in, but he didn't mention what town or building.
okay.
At V-Trans at 10 a.m., fourth floor conference room number 1. I'm taking that to be either Montpelier or...
It's not good.
Please designate one
Yeah,
person to represent the town at this meeting. He will be attending the meeting as well, so ideally we could carpool.
I don't think that we're going to designate just one.
I don't think we're going to designate just one.
I mean,
We are going.
We are definitely going.
as many of us as can. And if we've got room in the car, Matt could ride with us. He's a nice enough guy.
Well, just a direct email that I sent you last week, was to ask for an agenda for that meeting to find out what the meeting was about, who was going to attend, and what the purpose of that meeting was. Because they're not clear on that. There was a meeting about Scott Bridge, but you don't know who's going to be there. They didn't really invite you up front. And they're not telling you what the meeting is about. And that was in terms of not having heard from Scott Newman since March 2nd, after having him come here in February, promising the select board seat at the table, involved in all discussions, copies of inspection reports, and all of that. And my writing him a letter asking for those updates, and him basically ignoring me. Now there's a meeting in which the board has not been overtly invited.
That's true. The only invitation we've gotten is from
Well,
Matt Mann.
Chad got one from McCarty. And,
All right.
and I got a copy of that from Scott Newman, but Scott Newman didn't write me back. And then Wyndham Regional has been invited.
And it sounded like to me, more the merrier.
But they have done a couple of inspections of the bridge, different people, resource people and whatnot, but they haven't done, as was told at the table here last time, a $40,000, $50,000, we're bringing in an engineering firm, they're gonna be here for 3 weeks. weeks, they're gonna have an office trailer kind of thing, and they're gonna poke at every beam and every board. That hasn't been done.
No.
A number of people may have walked through it and taken pictures, but.
Any chances of that being done in next?
No, but emergency management had a number of concerns about this spring and early summer,
That's right,
boating
so
and swimming and the
you there,
road.
at least you know what they promised.
Those
I
promises
mean, I
were,
wasn't here in February, so, but what they promised, so we can find out in that meeting how come that's not forthcoming, and the biggest reason why we have not been apprised and kept up to date, and that we have to beg to get into a seat.
Exactly.
I really do wish that you would write a stronger letter.
right, but not from me, from the board, and I need some guidance from the board as to how you want that letter worded to whom it's to be addressed. Well, no, I'm serious, I've tried, but to me, it's politics, and timing is everything, and who you approach, and how you take it up another step.
It is.
But you had indicated that you want this to go to representatives and senators and the governor and the president.
That's
And
right.
right, no, I know. And that's a whole different, if it's coming from, I can get you a draft and you can rewrite it.
Okay, a draft that includes a bit of the history, summarizes our meeting in February.
I was there
So
before
that-
I could write a strong letter. Have you gonna give me that look? Who's the lead?
Just send a copy of this video.
Not strong enough.
No? Okay.
No, definitely not.
The video is not strong enough.
It's early yet,
The
kid.
bits just don't hold the,
It's early yet, kid. You promised me when I came through the
I
door
am
that you were
writing.
fairly wound up.
I
Yeah.
am writing.
Yeah, hey,
It's
we
almost
need
9
to-
o'clock now, you know. Second wind is coming.
Right, but
Right.
for you maybe. How about new tree proposal? Do we have a new tree proposal?
Actually, we don't.
Other than what
No, we don't. I'm sorry.
Edward gave us last year for?
That was 2 years ago. Keith was gonna, I talked to Linda last week, a week and a half ago. She was gonna send in forms with a couple of options on the trees. They will be down probably next week to fertilize the trees on the contract that you signed back in February. And they were gonna take a look at replacing one or more of the trees that are on the common, and I just simply asked her if they could draft up that. They had recommended an American chestnut, and it was so much money, and I can't remember. I was gonna look at the old files, and I thought, well, let's have them repropose it. But anyway, you had talked last fall about maybe planting a tree this summer and wanting to look at proposals, so I contacted them and asked her
Good.
if she could get it to us by today, and it didn't come in by fax, but should have it for the next one, if not
Okay,
sooner. I'll get a copy to you when it comes in.
okay, good enough. Ancient roads.
July 15th, site visit. It's personal. Certified letters have gone out. I think I got everybody. Hopefully I got everybody. Haven't had any returns. And this mailed one to the wrong address. Corrected that.
Okay, town hall fire doors.
Town hall fire doors, we've seen an RFP draft from Tiz Garfield for the fire doors. So we can post this out. I would like to make sure that we have a meeting of everybody bidding on it, so that everyone is hearing the same information. I'm
Oh,
concerned
yeah,
that
they have to look at the same plan
and they've got to look at the same plan, and that everybody is working off the same information, because in the draft it was
Pick up
site
copies.
visitation can be done at the time that they pick up copies of that construction document. My concern, and Craig pointed it out, that we don't know what's in these walls. So, well, insulation now.
Well, yeah, but there may be hazardous materials that we've got to work around. We have no idea what's above that ceiling, and that's going to be,
You've got asbestos.
that's going to be fun.
the same time,
You may not have.
May not.
I think it's old horsehair, but
It might be, you'd be surprised that ain't, yeah, I'll bet you're gonna find it ain't that big a.
This obviously needs to be revised in a number of ways.
well, the state does have the lead abatement rules and everything they have to follow now.
Yeah,
Ms. Garfield was gonna put this out last week. She typed that up. She had discussed the request for proposal with Mark Wesner, the architect. She had felt that it would be better for Mark not to do it, but that she and Anita could make up a request for proposal. And could she have a copy of one? Well, no, but she was ready to go as of last week. This ad, in fact, was gonna be in last week so that you had bids essentially
Didn't she send it to me?
on the second.
yeah.
Right, and I indicated to her that, and David did also in a follow-up email, and yours was longer than mine, just that the board was gonna look at this tonight and discuss how the procedure was going to, it was still going, but how it was going to be handled, that essentially the board wanted to handle it as opposed to having Ms. Garfield handle it at this point.
Well,
And make the decisions on the wording and how it was
Yeah,
gonna
because
be.
I thought we'd asked her to have Mark Weston write
Yeah, it was.
the ad on that.
well, we had asked her to have him, you know,
He needs to do the
solicit
blueprint.
bids
He
and
needs to
all
do
of
the
that.
blueprint.
And he apparently is not prepared to do that, basically.
Because I thought our discussion with her last week was that he was totally prepared to do that.
Well, it turns out that's not true.
But I think the engineering drawings and all the
It
blueprints
says-
will be there.
It says, Martin made a motion to authorize Tiz Garfield to have the architect Westner proceed with preparing a draft request for bid proposals. And if possible, provide the select board with contractor recommendations. It was specifically to have Westner do that, not
Right,
to have Tiz do that.
right, but he apparently is not prepared, so we'll do it.
Anyway, she had written that she and Carol Millis and Anita, she thought could write up but she wanted copies of old, the sidewalk was too complicated, she wanted copies of old requests for bid proposals, and she'd get one out. And then she came out with the ad that was gonna be in the paper last week, and we kinda said hold off until the board can work out its.
Fortunately, you didn't just kind of say it.
Well. No, it was kindly said.
Oh, okay.
But she's ready to go.
Well,
however, it also leads into the town hall vault expansion. And that while we have a contractor here, while they may be a contractor doing work on one side of the hallway, do you want to see if there's a contractor that's capable of doing a vault as well, or do you want to handle it separately? What
My guess is to handle it separately. I mean, we talked about funds and money and not getting the right grants, and that we have Mosley Fund and that kind of thing. Mosley Fund and RDAG, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think that in the Mosley and the RDAG, we're only supposed to be spending the interest, not any of the principal. So we're going above the interest as it is. I think that when we begin to look at expenses of expanding the vault and that sort of thing, that it ought to be separate and apart.
Okay.
That's my own opinion, and I don't know, I'm a bit miffed, if you will, that we were led to believe that Weston had everything ready to go for this, and now that we get this, and it doesn't seem appropriate to me. It seems that the architect is the one that should have all of the stuff ready for us, because he's the one that has it all designed and knows what we're looking for. He should be here when we do the on-site visit for bidders and that kind of stuff. I certainly don't have the expertise to know and point out any questions from possible bidders or contractors that may have. I mean, the contractor may say, well, what about that? I don't have that expertise.
And I agree. I don't have that.
And I don't think anybody sitting here does. And I really think that we need to involve the architect, I mean,
Yeah.
I could be
I-
wrong,
No,
but
I
I think
agree
that
with you,
I mean, this is something you're gonna
It is.
live with for many, many years. It's something that's very important, and it's from my opinion, a major undertaking. It's not something we should just throw an ad in the Brattleboro Reformer and expect to get.
Okay, so
Proper
the question
thing, and I
is
think
now,
that
how do
we
we go, how do we want to go back to Ms. Garfield or Mr. Westner?
Well, I think we need to go back to Tiz, and if Mr. Westner isn't prepared to do that, then what is it gonna take to have him prepared? Because I don't think Tiz would have the answer to those questions.
Yeah, I think that,
And if she's not able to do that, then one of us, then at our next meeting, one of us needs to be appointed to take Tiz's place and get contact with Mr. Westner and go from there. I mean,
I don't think she, in all fairness to her, I don't think she talked to him thoroughly. I did, I think it was 3 meetings ago, you raised a concern that while you were in favor of going ahead with the project, you didn't know where the architect was in terms of developing the plans.
Mhm.
And what was that gonna cost, another $4,000?
Yeah,
How was that
yeah,
gonna add on? And I went up to Miss Garfield's house, we sat and talked, and she indicated that he was ready to go push the button. It was only going to be. And at the meeting, at the last meeting, Bob DeServo and Tiz indicated that
he was ready.
many
to go.
hundreds of dollars, maybe 600-700, but basically it was push button, ready to go. And that he might have a few contractors in mind. Tiz indicated that he does have a few contractors
And
in mind.
that's why I made that motion.
But apparently since Tiz's last email, he's not ready to do the bid proposal part of it. I'm sure he can do the engineering drawings and the specs and the schedules and all of that. But not that proposal part of it. And that's where Tiz was coming in, and Dave and
I think we need the architecture to do that. Is what I think.
yeah, I think so too.
So
And if
it's
Tiz
a function
isn't able to do
needs-
it, so we need to get a hold of Tiz and see if Mr. Westner is willing to do the bid proposal and to meet with at a certain.
someone on board during the week.
Someone on the board, or when they wanna do the site visits for the contractors, and what's that gonna cost us? I mean, so we're back now 3 meetings ago. And we're asking about what's it gonna cost us to have this done appropriately. I don't think that any of us have the expertise to do that. I think that we've hired Mr. Westner to do that, and now we're at this block.
However, if you had copies of the actual blueprint drawings, this is what needs to be done. This, expands, this wall's coming out, it's gonna be framed out like this, you're gonna use such and such moldings and trim. Then I think you could probably develop an RFP stating we're looking for bid proposals based on these specification drawings. But we do not have those, we don't have the specifications yet.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether just in order to get this moving, whether we ought to just go to Westner.
You need to go through this.
Well, I
Okay.
just think that we are, yeah, I think,
Okay.
mostly even in respect that we should,
Yeah.
would ask Tiz, but personally, I don't think this is acceptable, what Tiz is doing.
Well, no, I mean, there are, for one thing, several things that are in all of the documents we looked at tonight that are not in here. For another, it suggested that
We should just,
anybody interested could just stop by
We'll be
anytime
happy.
the clerk's
I mean,
office is
if
open.
it's okay with Tiz to let us to go ahead and contact with Mr. Westner and let the board pick it up from here, that's fine. I'm happy to do that, or go
we
out
gotta,
on board.
we gotta talk to her first.
That's what
Yeah,
I would
okay.
think.
I can give her a call, unless somebody else wants
No,
to.
you-
Okay. I'll do
Town
it.
hall ball expansion, we're not even gonna touch on that right now, we're gonna,
Well, it's something that we're gonna have to look at.
yeah.
I think it's
All right,
entirely.
just so that
It's a different,
just so that you're aware, one of the ideas that's floating out is to put an addition between that window, west of that window, and east of the window by near Joe's desk, and bump out a vault right there. I know it's not on the long-range plans for the planning commission, but it's within
I don't know if it's in the realm of the historical.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's in the realm of historical
They still have a
either.
big
yeah,
fence.
I think that that's a big thing.
The other thing is, I don't know, I mean, if we're done talking about the fire doors, we wanna slide into that, it's all right with me. How big of a vault do we need? I know when we talked about this, several years ago, we talked, before we built them cabinets, we talked about going on the east side of that window and coming this way, almost as far as the cabinets, and joining those two, and having a door, like be a third door cut, so that you could get into that. So then you're almost doubling, or you are doubling the size of the existing piece.
In looking, talking to David about it, talking to me about it, and looking at this, I think you could take out the back wall. The vault is only 6 feet wide by 10, 11, 12 feet long, whatever the length of that is. Just keep the main door, take out that back concrete wall, and build outside.
What we're talking about is that going to get in the way of our being
Historical
considered,
designation of the building.
Yeah,
You can't change the footprint, the exterior.
That would be something that would have to be looked at, but it would be the most economic way, because it would be a very small foundation footprint, maybe 6 feet out from the building, maybe 10 feet long. You would double the size of that wall, and you would not have to buy another entrance door, safe locking door, which is very expensive, and set up a framework for that. Basically, you just have to punch out your
this
wall.
is something that I think we need to talk about maybe at our next meeting, because I think that it's going to take some time, and we've still got a couple of other things on our agenda here.
Anita has, not to include, but Anita has mentioned she has a pressing need to look to the future about a year, 18 months down the road, when she is literally out of space.
Oh,
So,
I'm not
I mean-
suggesting we do.
Oh, no, I'm not, I was just
Sorry, she's
putting
not out
that
yet,
in.
because we talked about it for 20 years.
And
We talked about a lot.
Can somebody find out what doing that, apparently Wesley's idea, which is not gonna work.
The expansion on the back.
Yeah, I mean, that was called for an expansion too.
that was a big expansion with a change in
Yeah, but the point is, it altered the footprint, it did something very different, and can somebody find out what doing this kind of thing would do to our...
I'll see if somebody can find it. And I'll advise the board on that. I'll make a few phone calls, and if it takes, we'll find out.
Thank you so much.
Planning commission.
We're up to NEM's compliance, by the way.
But when Ms. Garfield heard that, she was, you were gonna go down all of a sudden. That was, yes.
What was that?
Nothing. No.
Okay, NEM's compliance and fire department grant applications.
There was an email floated by several individuals in town looking at an assistance to the firefighters. It's a grant put on by Homeland Security that in the past has allowed firefighters to purchase equipment, purchase fire trucks. This time it has not allowed, will not allow the town to purchase a fire station. In the past, it had been able to be used for that. However, the document's not real big. It's only 95 pages. And down around page 72 of it is where it has a couple of small paragraphs that, unless you're familiar with it, that you wouldn't think anything of it. One of them is that the town and the fire department will be in compliance with the National Incident Management System, which means that everybody on the board would have at least attended ICS 402. That more people in the town would be compliant with ICS, which would mean more of the town employees would have to take ICS 100, 200, 700, 800. And one of the additional kickers is that the fire department would have to report all of their incidents through the National Fire Incident Reporting System, which the fire department right now is using Firehouse Web software, and they're reporting their incidents through that, but we would have to remove the incidents from there and key them in through, or import them into InFirst. So I just wanted everybody to be aware that last year we did apply for the Assistance to Firefighters grant. That's where the $93,000 grant that you may have heard me referring to came from, and we didn't pick that up because we weren't in compliance. And so without a lot of work, we would not be in compliance. So,
There's money potentially available for a fire station upgrade, rebuild, through FEMA or through however that is.
Through Homeland Security.
Through
not
Homeland
fire.
Security.
We can't build a fire station because that's not in it. If you were awarded the grant, if you applied for the grant,
Right,
you could apply for vehicles, you could apply for equipment, but the compliance side of it is excessive or intensive. It's not necessarily excessive. I mean, I'm in compliance, but there's a lot of people that would need to take some additional training.
Well, there's a lot of people that aren't in compliance, a lot of people that wouldn't be in compliance, so your manpower would diminish by a lot, is that what you're saying?
No, it's not that the manpower would diminish by a lot, but it's that if you accept this money, that you're going to have to show that you're working toward compliance. So, just like the 8 hours training for flagger training, more people would have to be taking that. The 8 hours, right? The 8 hours training that is being offered in Newbrook tomorrow night and next Tuesday night for hazmat awareness. We would have to be sending people to that. We would have to be sending people. The ICS 100 is a 3-hour course. The ICS 200 is an 8-hour course. So you start working your way up.
Okay, what I am concerned about is, are we only looking at grants for fire departments and other emergency responders? Is this going to spread out more somehow in the future?
Well, there's a grant that I finished the second round of on Friday for, it's an equipment grant for a radio repeater that will allow the highway department to reduce the number of communication holes within the town.
Okay, and do we not have to go through this for that
Kurt
grant?
actually had to go through part of this because it's coming from
Right,
Homeland Security,
and that was the famous overtime.
and that was the famous overtime.
But
As far as other grants, which is why I didn't jump on this AFG, the Assistance for Firefighters grant, because I know that the compliance portion of it is intensive.
right,
Okay.
okay.
This came in from a resident who found it and sent the email out to the select board, had to me included, and that's the one that David had filled out last, pretty long application, but it's the one that he filled out last year.
Correct.
But there was that caveat that an awful lot of people were going to have to do an awful lot of work, spend an awful lot of time becoming compliant in order to accept the award.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not even filling out the paperwork.
Fine.
I don't even know how the fire department feels about all this, the members of the fire department.
Members of the fire department, we've had this has come up in several discussions at the fire department. So I'm aware of how much duty they're currently pulling, how much work they're currently doing as a member of the volunteer member of the fire department. I'm also aware of where they feel their training needs should go. And so
That's what I'm saying, I don't know if they're going to say, hey, let's do this sounds good, or if they're saying, no, we're really not ready to do this, that's what I'm...
and a member of the fire department is here, so he can speak. 2 members of the fire department are here.
You need 3.
Well,
Ryan,
If you guys have ever been on an emergency scene and tried to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, and you have not had this minimum amount of training, you're talking about somebody with a PhD trying to explain astrophysics to a high school dropout.
oh, okay, but
There's a very absolute minimum amount of training our government needs, that our volunteers need, and the fact that we're looking at a minimum amount of training as a burden is an issue of concern. I don't know how many members of the select board have taken ICS 100, 200, 402, 700, but if there's an incident and our select board needs to exert its power, you're not even most of the time going to be entirely sure what those powers are or who's in charge, because there's a federal system so that we can all talk to each other, and most of these required courses are language skills. You need to speak the same language as all the other departments and volunteers. We're paying the sheriff's department to come down. We have mutual aid from other fire departments. We have state agencies that come down. Everybody else is required to speak this language, but our town doesn't feel the need to take the minimum steps to speak the same language in an emergency as everybody else.
And that's certainly not what we had said, and that was not the question that I had. I was asking you how the fire department felt about it, that's all. And I don't know, you indicated that they've had discussions, but I don't know as a whole. Once again, it would concern me about how the department feels about it, not one individual.
and the department has felt that at this point that as a volunteer department, their calls are significant enough that they spend enough time away from their families. So there are more of them that are working toward this, but they're still spending enough time away from their families. Which is one reason why 2 years ago the select board allowed emergency management to spend a stipend of $6 an hour to somebody who wanted to go take some of this training on a Saturday, or to take a day off to go avail themselves of some of this. And why we paid, and I've paid in the past for mileage, much like we're doing for Kurt to drive his truck to.
Okay, but the bottom line is that most of them are not enthusiastic about
Most
coming
of the
into
individuals,
compliance with this.
most of the
We just elected a new training officer.
Okay, Ryan, we need to be able to discuss this too. I think we're clear about how you feel about it.
The fire department elected a new training officer to monitor this. They obviously, at a business meeting, went and nominated and had an election. They obviously, the department, you can't tell me the department doesn't feel the training is important, otherwise they wouldn't have had an election for a new training officer at their last meeting. I disagree with the characterization that the fire department as a whole feels that this training is not of value, because they now have a training officer.
Oh, okay. But we know now that we're not applying for the grant, and I think we need to move on to municipal permitting of events.
And this one's gonna be real quick. What I've got is a sample that I'm gonna ask Craig to copy and drop for you. And it's from the town of Bradford. And you can do with it what you need.
You want it right now or you want?
No, I don't. We don't need it right now.
No.
Yeah, you have to remember this one.
Say so before you run off, because we're gonna be done with this in a minute.
Well, I'll be right back.
So that's done.
So we'll copy
Should we get it? Anybody want to move? We adjourn?
No, he wants to go into executive
I
session.
know.
And while we're waiting for him, if anybody is late Saturday afternoon or early Sunday morning, if anybody is over by Ed and Lois Phoenix house, the emergency, the West River Radio Club and members of RACES, who we use to help us with communications, are going to be participating in field days, where they take radios and set them up out in the middle of the field, and they're going to be communicating all over the nation and the world for 24 hours. So if you're interested and would like to see some of the capabilities that they have used in the past for the town,
I want to make it, because I'm a bit upset by Mr. Hocklich's accusations or feelings that we are saying that this isn't a necessary training or isn't a wanted training. My questions come from concerns on how these trainings come about and who's interested in doing them, not whether it's a good service to the town or not. That's not what I'm asking about. And I think that his insinuations and angry outbursts toward the select board this evening are pretty unwarranted.
Okay, Jeff, you wanted an executive session
Yes.
for
Or if it's a
personnel?
personnel.
Okay.